that Tsundere goddess falls in love with me. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 701, Prodigy Lu Wu. After Lu Wu left, Lu Wansheng wiped the sweat from his forehead. When he stood in front of Lu Wu just now, he deeply felt the pressure from Lu Wu. He couldn't help but exclaimed, "That guy, he must be a martial saint." He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Behind him, a middle-aged woman came over and asked, "Master, how can we destroy the Danfang family within 3 days? If we had the strength, we would have done it long ago." Lu Wansheng rubbed his forehead and looked worried. This Lu Wu came to support, but he didn't do it all at once, and directly destroyed Lu Chuan and the Danfang family together, and still troubled them. "It's so lazy." Lu Wansheng sighed helplessly. "Do your best. If you can't beat them, let's ask Lu Wu for help." The woman nodded helplessly, and the rest of the Lu family sighed heavily. It seems that a bloody storm is inevitable. At this moment, Qin Xiang walked in quickly, and walked quickly in the direction of Lu Wansheng. "Master Lu, please stay. I have something to discuss with you." Lu Wansheng was about to turn around and leave, but he stopped and looked back at Qin Xiang. "You are Qin Xiang? What do you want to see me for?" "I learned that the Lu family headquarters sent support to help the Lu family deal with the enemy, so I volunteered to join your camp and do my parts for the Lu family." Hearing this, Lu Wansheng couldn't help but laugh. "Really? I didn't expect you to come here to form an alliance. Are you willing to do your best to help me?" Qin Xiang nodded repeatedly and said very seriously, "Yes, that's why I came here." Very good, very good. With your help, our Lu family will definitely quickly eliminate the Danfang family. Then, Yang Ming also walked in quickly. "Master Lu, I'm Yang Ming, the patriarch of the Yang family in Huangxing City. I came here this time to form an alliance with you so that we can deal with the Danfang family together. To be honest, I have long been fed up with the Danfang family. This time, I have the opportunity, and I will do my best to help the Lu family to eliminate the Danfang family." Yang Ming's words made Lu Wansheng excited. "Ha ha ha. Are you serious?" Yang Ming nodded heavily. "I'm serious." "Okay. It seems that both of you are very sensible people. In this case, I agree. We will be allies on the same front in the future. In fact, I have begun to consider taking action against the Danfang family within these 2 or 3 days." At this time, Lu Wansheng was extremely excited. He originally thought that he might not be able to complete the task assigned by Lu Wu. After all, the strength of the Danfang family is very good. If they could defeat their opponents, they would have taken action long ago. But now it is different, because Lu Wu's arrival has attracted a group of strong men from Huangxing City to come to form an alliance, which has greatly strengthened the power of their Lu family. Now, if the 3 families join forces to attack the Danfang family, there is no doubt that the Danfang family will not be able to resist. Then, another figure walked in from the gate. The smile on Lu Wansheng's face could not be suppressed. "Good. Great. Lu Yan, my good son, I must avenge you." He clenched his fists and said viciously with gritted teeth. At the same time, in the Danfang family, Lu Chuan sat in the yard and continued to practice his body and sword skills. Dan Fangcheng walked in quickly. "Mr. Lu, there has been a lot of unrest in Huangxing City recently. That bastard Qin Xiang, I sent someone to follow him, and that guy actually turned around and went straight to Lu Wansheng. This situation is very obvious. The Qin family will definitely surrender to the Lu family. I guess other family forces will follow suit when they see that the situation is not right. It seems that the current situation is not optimistic." Lu Chuan retracted the soul-breaking sword and walked towards Dan Fangcheng. "Are you worried?" "Of course I'm worried. It's obvious that the Lu family is serious this time. I have sent someone to report the matter to my father. If we can hold on through this period of time, we can wait for support." Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. "These bastards came so swiftly and decisively, they will definitely not give us a chance to call for help. By the way, what's the name of the guy who is providing support? How strong is he?" Lu Chuan asked. Dong Fangcheng pondered for a moment and said helplessly, I think I only know that guy's name as Lu Wu, and I don't know anything else. However, since he came to support, his strength is definitely stronger than Lu Wansheng, and it is not a little bit stronger. This is really worrying. Such a strong enemy came to Wanxing City, and we didn't even have the slightest preparation. I'm afraid we are really going to suffer. Dong Fangcheng suddenly looked up at Lu Chuan and asked, Mr. Lu, if not, let's go first. When you get to our Dongfang family's headquarters, you can definitely practice with peace of mind, and you still have time to make yourself stronger. Lu Chuan did not make a decision for the time being. Wait for me first. Lu Chuan stood up and prepared to leave here. Seeing this, Dong Fangcheng hurriedly asked, where are you going? It's dangerous outside now. I'm going to the small dark room to talk to Lu Meng and see if she knows this Lu Wu. After speaking, Lu Chuan walked out of the yard. Then Lu Chuan walked towards the small dark room in the corner. Opening the door, Lu Chuan walked in, came to the bed, and saw that the plate next to it was already clean. It seems that she still couldn't bear the hunger and ate everything when no one was around. Lu Meng, I'm coming. Lu Meng turned over and turned to look at Lu Chuan. She put her messy hair back, sat up straight, and looked at Lu Chuan. What else do you want to do? When will you let me go? Lu Chuan said, as long as you can provide enough help, I will naturally let you go. Now, I want to ask you about someone. Lu Wu, do you know him? Lu Meng frowned slightly. Why are you asking him? It seems that you know him. Of course, it can't be. He came to Wanxing City? Lu Meng's eyes widened with curiosity. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. I won't hide it from you. Lu Wu did come to Wanxing City, and there was no news in advance. He came very secretly and caught us off guard. Ha ha ha. Lu Wu is here? This is not a dream. Lu Meng shouted excitedly. Don't talk nonsense. Do you know much about him? Last year, Lu Wansheng brought some of our younger generations to the main residence for further study. At that time, the person who instructed our group of newcomers was Lu Wu. It can be said that I had a brief acquaintance with him. At the beginning of last year, I saw him in the Lu family's main residence. He was already at the peak of the martial emperor realm. At that time, he was only 33 years old, so you understand, right? This guy is very scary. Chapter 702, Martial Saint Realm Master. Lu Meng's face was very solemn, and he warned Lu Chuan in a heavy tone. He was already at the peak of the martial emperor realm at the beginning of last year. Lu Meng nodded heavily. Yes, and he is only one step away from breaking through the realm and reaching the martial saint realm. He came here this year, so I guess his strength has reached the martial saint realm. Lu Chuan, you are definitely not his opponent. I can believe that you can beat Lu Wansheng, but you can only admit defeat to this Lu Wu. Moreover, he is cruel and cold-blooded by nature. On the battlefield, when the enemies hear his name, those with poor mental quality will throw away their weapons on the spot. Once when he was fighting for territory with a hostile family, he annihilated thousands of people alone. The weapon he held was a battle axe. The battlefield was full of broken limbs and blood, and it was extremely bloody. If you lose to him, your end will be very miserable. Lu Chuan frowned slightly. If he is a strong man in the martial saint realm, then I really am not his opponent. Although he has a blessing of the divine fire, the gap in hard power is here, and it is difficult to make up for it by external force. Unless Lu Chuan can break through the nascent soul realm and successfully advance to the spiritual sorrow realm, he will have the strength to compete with Lu Wu. There is no other way. Although he is only one step away from the spiritual sorrow realm, it is often this last step that is the most difficult step. Lu Chuan took a deep breath. It seems that the situation is not very good. The Lu family is really serious this time. They actually sent such a monstrous genius. Lu Chuan couldn't help but sigh. At the age of 33, he broke through to the martial saint realm. This talent can only be described as terrifying. Lu Meng added. So, you should know that your situation is over. Either escape or die. You choose one. Lu Meng said confidently. Lu Chuan shook his head helplessly. I don't choose any of them. It's not that I have no resistance at all. Since the Lu family wants to be ruthless to me, I naturally will not be afraid. If you dare to fight, you are looking for death. The destruction of Dongfang Mansion this time is inevitable. If you are smart, you'd better escape from here. There is a long time to come, and your talent is not bad. It's better to stay alive and develop. There will be some opportunities in the future. Lu Chuan looked at Lu Meng and asked curiously, are you giving me advice? I'm not thinking about you. I'm just reminding you what to do now. I'm your enemy. Shouldn't you provoke me and let me bite the bullet and fight Lu Wu? Lu Meng turned his head to the side. Haha, I just feel sorry for you and give you some advice. Me pitiful? I never feel pitiful. Lu Meng smiled and said, being regarded as a thorn in the eyes and a thorn in the flesh by your own people, being hunted everywhere, your father was kicked out of the house, and you lived a miserable life. Isn't this pitiful? Lu Chuan stared at Lu Meng and said, remind you, the Lu family in Kunlun domain are not my people, but my enemies. I never show mercy to my enemies. Lu Chuan clenched his fists and turned to leave. Lu Chuan, escape back to the secular world. You grew up there. That is your world. Kunlun domain is not where you should be. You should not break into this world. Lu Wu will kill you. This is your last chance. Lu Chuan walked out quickly, completely ignoring Lu Meng's words. Lu Meng looked at Lu Chuan's figure and sighed helplessly. What a stubborn donkey. Lu Meng cursed in a low voice and then lay down on the bed again. After Lu Chuan came out, Dong Fangcheng hurried over. Mr. Lu, did you find out anything? I found out something. The one named Lu Wu may have broken through to the Martial Saint realm this year. That is to say, we are about to face a powerful enemy in the Martial Saint realm. Dong Fangcheng took 2 steps back and swallowed nervously. Martial Saint realm, is that true? A Martial Saint realm coming to Wangxing City? That's impossible. Isn't it a waste of time for him to come here? Lu Chuan shrugged helplessly. It seems that the Lu mansion is not going to give him a chance, and directly sent a Martial Saint realm expert here to sweep the area. There is no Martial Saint realm expert in the entire Wangxing City, and he is completely invincible when he comes here. Hearing what Lu Chuan said, Dong Fangcheng lowered his head and fell into deep thought. It's over. It's over. This crisis is beyond your and my imagination. If we don't run away quickly, I'm afraid we won't have a chance. Run for our lives. No need. It's not that we don't have a chance at all. Lu Chuan remained calm and composed. Don't think too much. In Wangxing City, all the major family forces have joined the Lu mansion's camp. We are now alone. How can we fight them? The Lu family is a veteran strongman in Kunlun domain, and once they get together, they will immediately have a large group of followers, which we can't compare to. Lu Chuan's face became solemn. There are 2 key points to turn the situation around. One is to break through to the spirit severing realm, and the other is to unseal the soul breaking sword. No matter which of these 2 things is completed, he has the ability to turn the situation around and defeat Lu Wu. But if these 2 points cannot be completed, then there is no chance at all. Now, he doesn't have much time, and the external enemies are eyeing them and ready to eat them at any time. Under such a critical juncture, Lu Chuan can only choose to gamble. Give me some time, I will turn it all around. Lu Chuan walked quickly towards his guest room. Dong Fangcheng hurriedly followed behind. Mr. Lu, what are you going to do? Do we still have a chance? Or let's run away. This is the safest way. The enemy is too powerful. We are no match. Dong Fangcheng followed Lu Chuan and muttered, and he seemed extremely panicked at the moment. At this time, Dong Fangzun came over. Uncle San. Xiao Cheng, have you heard about the situation outside? Now pack your luggage and leave Wangxing City. Uncle San, what about you? Of course I will stay to protect the family business. I will fight for the Dongfang family until the last moment. No, Uncle San, you come with us. Dongfang Zun shook his head slightly. No, one of us must be able to stay here. Otherwise, all the people in the Dongfang family will be gone, and this family business will be handed over to others, right? No matter what, I will make the Lu family pay a price. They are too arrogant. Dongfang Zun said very toughly. Dongfang Cheng sighed helplessly, and when he looked back at Lu Chuan, he found that Lu Chuan had gone far away. After returning to the yard, Lu Chuan took a deep breath. His only chance now is a way of cultivation that he had conceived before. The branches of the sacred tree are full of spiritual energy. If ordinary people absorb it rashly, they are likely to explode and die. In simple terms, this majestic spiritual energy will cause damage to the human body. If he could absorb the spiritual energy from the branches of the sacred tree, while letting the nine heavens mysterious fire fill his body for repair, perhaps he could achieve a balance between the two and greatly increase Lu Chuan's speed of absorbing spiritual energy. Doing so was very risky, so Lu Chuan could only choose to fight once. Chapter 703 Breakthrough to the Spiritual Realm. Lu Chuan returned to his room and took out the branch of the sacred tree. The abundant spiritual energy instantly filled the entire room, and Lu Chuan placed the branch on the table. Then, he began to mobilize the nine heavens mysterious fire in his body. He had this idea long ago. The nine heavens mysterious fire has an amazing body repair ability. Breaking the restrictions and absorbing the branches of the sacred tree will cause great damage to the body. If the two can be offset, it will help Lu Chuan absorb spiritual energy very quickly and speed up the practice. He can only try it now. If he can break through to the spirit severing realm, he may still be able to fight Lu Wu. If he is still in the nascent soul realm, he will be inferior to his opponent when facing Lu Wu and even more powerful people. Even if he has the blessing of the two great divine fires, the help of the immortal golden pupil and the soul breaking sword, it is difficult to cross the realm and fight against the opponent. What's more, Lu Wu is unlikely to fight him alone, but will bring his army to flatten the Dongfang mansion. If he wants to defeat Lu Wu, he must be stronger than him in hard power. Lu Chuan took a deep breath and sat on the bed, ready to enter the state of cultivation. At this time, there was a knock on the door, and Gu Xiaorao's voice came over. Lu Chuan, is it convenient to come in now? I feel that there is an amazing spiritual energy here. Are you using the branches of the sacred tree? Gu Xiaorao asked curiously. In the current situation of facing a great enemy, Lu Chuan was still practicing with concentration. I'm afraid that the 2 or 3 days of practice time will not provide any help. Lu Chuan closed his eyes and sat on the bed, saying in a deep voice, wait for me for a moment, don't worry, I will be out soon. Although Gu Xiaorao didn't know what Lu Chuan was going to do, since Lu Chuan said so, she naturally wouldn't entangle too much. She turned back to the yard, sat on the stone chair, and waited for Lu Chuan quietly. At this time, Lu Chuan abandoned the spiritual branch and directly touched the branches of the sacred tree and began to absorb the spiritual energy in the branches. Put the branch on the danshan, and as he breathed in and out, he began to gradually feel the violent and raging spiritual energy. An unprecedented majestic spiritual energy was pouring into Lu Chuan's body. For the first time, Lu Chuan felt such a vast and majestic spiritual energy, as if an endless sea was surrounding him. For a moment, Lu Chuan felt difficulty breathing and a feeling of suffocation came over him. Then, his brain began to ache, and his joints felt like being pierced by silver needles. The sharp tingling made Lu Chuan's breathing disordered. He swallowed hard and tried to suppress the pain all over his body as much as possible. This majestic spiritual energy seemed to tear his whole body apart. Such pain was something Lu Chuan had never experienced before. He began to turn the nine heavens mysterious fire in his body and began to repair the damaged flesh and blood at an accelerated speed. In an instant, high temperature filled Lu Chuan's body and sweat covered his body like a waterfall. His whole body was constantly torn apart by the violent spiritual energy and then healed by the nine heavens mysterious fire. In this cycle, Lu Chuan was tortured and almost fainted. The whole room became extremely hot, and Lu Chuan clenched his teeth, and beads of sweat kept falling from his forehead, soaking the entire bed. He opened his eyes, only to see that his eyeballs were red and bloodshot. Then, raging fire filled his eye sockets, and his eyes briefly returned to normal. But then, with the entry of violent spiritual energy, his eyes were damaged again, and blood instantly dyed his eyes red. Under the continuous cycle, no one knew what kind of pain and suffering Lu Chuan had experienced. This pain was 10,000 times more intense than the sword piercing the heart. But in Lu Chuan's heart, he only had infinite excitement. At the beginning, the pain brought him great stimulation, and he almost couldn't hold on. However, as he continued to repair his body, he gradually felt that he was really absorbing the spiritual energy released by the branches. And the speed of this absorption was 100 times and 1,000 times faster than normal absorption. 1 day of practice is equivalent to more than 1 year of normal practice. After feeling the spiritual energy in his body filling up, Lu Chuan's heart was left with infinite excitement. With this method of practice, he will soon break through the realm and break the bottleneck, until he enters the realm of distraction. The realm of distraction. After entering this realm, not only is one's own strength improved, but more importantly, the soul can leave the body and wander around. After cultivating the soul, not only will the intensity of the soul attack be increased, but it will also allow Lu Chuan to easily resist any soul attack. And Lu Chuan's immortal golden pupil is his strongest soul martial art. If it is upgraded to the spirit separation realm, this ability will be greatly improved. After about half an hour, in the room, Lu Chuan, who was sitting on the bed, suddenly had a surge of momentum, and a strong wind swept around. Swish! The bed curtain was blown up, and behind Lu Chuan, a soul body emitting a faint glow appeared. Lu Chuan's soul floated out of the body, just enough to look down at the back of his body. After the soul left the body, Lu Chuan looked at his hands with surprise. Those almost transparent hands are enough to prove that he is now in the soul state. Lu Chuan laughed excitedly. He successfully broke the bottleneck and stepped into the spirit separation realm! Exclamation mark. This method is indeed effective, although the risk is very high. There were several times in the process when Lu Chuan did not have time to repair his body. But with risk comes opportunity. After this practice, Lu Chuan made a thrilling breakthrough to the spiritual severing realm. He immediately floated forward, passed through the gate, and came to the yard. He saw Gu Xiaorao, who was sitting on a chair with her chin propped up, looking a little anxious. Gu Xiaosang ran over and pulled Gu Xiaorao's arm. The two seemed to be chatting about something. "Sister, why don't we call Lu Chuan to escape together? This Wangxing city is too dangerous. I heard from Dan Fangcheng that a large number of people have gathered in Wangxing city and are going to settle accounts with their Danfang family. We will definitely not be able to escape when the time comes. In order not to be affected, we should leave quickly. Dan Fangcheng also thinks that we should escape." After some persuasion, Gu Xiaorao just sighed helplessly. She turned her head and looked at Gu Xiaosang. "Wait for Lu Chuan to come out. I will listen to his opinion. Sister, sometimes you should make your own decisions. This is related to your life and property. Call him out." Gu Xiaorao nodded helplessly. "I'll call him again." She got up and walked towards the door. At this time, Lu Chuan's soul was retracted. Lu Chuan, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, opened his eyes and walked down the bed. He wiped the sweat on his forehead and neck with a handkerchief. He opened the door and saw Gu Xiaorao raised her right hand and was about to knock on the door. "Lu Chuan, stop practicing. We don't have enough time to practice slowly. Let's escape quickly. The Danfang family is going to fail in Wangxing City. We have no chance." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 704, Cleaning Up the Fence Sitters. Gu Xiaorao looked at Lu Chuan worriedly. "We must flee Wangxing City now, otherwise we will have no chance. This time, it's not just the Lu family that wants to deal with us. Other families have joined their camp after seeing the Lu family's momentum." Lu Chuan looked at Gu Xiaorao's anxious look and smiled indifferently. "Leave it to me next. I will handle everything." Gu Xiaorao looked at Lu Chuan in a daze, not understanding what Lu Chuan said. "You want to handle all this? You can't do it with your own strength." Suddenly, Gu Xiaorao began to look up and down at Lu Chuan. "Why are you soaked? Did you just take a shower?" "No. There is a smell of sweat." "Did you just sweat?" Gu Xiaorao leaned back and looked at Lu Chuan in surprise. She didn't expect that Lu Chuan was soaked because of sweating. "I just broke through the bottleneck and broke through the realm. I'm no longer the same as before. My strength has been greatly improved. People in the martial emperor realm are no longer my opponents," Lu Chuan said confidently. Gu Xiaorao looked at Lu Chuan, stunned. "What did you do just now? You broke through the realm in such a short time." "I just chose to take a risk, so I didn't tell you. I took off the spiritual branch directly touched the branch of the sacred tree, and began to absorb spiritual energy. The powerful spiritual energy will tear a person's body apart in an instant. My body is strong, and the 9 heavens mysterious fire is constantly healing. I resisted it, and continued to absorb spiritual energy to complete the breakthrough. Lu Chuan said it calmly, but Gu Xiaorao knew how painful this process would be. The branches of the sacred tree can easily tear apart the body of an ordinary person. Even a strong man in the martial emperor realm would not be able to withstand it for a few seconds, and would explode and die. But Lu Chuan resisted it, not only because of his strong physique, but also because of the blessing of the 9 heavens mysterious fire, the sacred fire. So that's the case. If you do this, if you are not careful, won't you be seriously injured, or even explode and die directly? Gu Xiaorao looked at Lu Chuan with a worried look. You're right, but I can only take this risk once. If I succeed in breaking through, I will have the strength to fight Lu Wu. If I fail to break through, I will die here. Lu Chuan touched Gu Xiaorao's head, and said with a smile, now, we don't have to run for our lives. Gu Xiaorao threw herself into Lu Chuan's arms, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. Don't take this risk again. Gu Xiaorao said loudly. Lu Chuan nodded repeatedly. Only this time. I won't do it again in the future. Gu Xiaorao looked up at Lu Chuan and asked, are you going to find Lu Wu now? Lu Chuan sneered. Let's deal with those fence sitters first. Let them face the reality and see who is the stronger party. Lu Chuan said, clenching his fists. Please prepare some clothes for me to change. I have to go to Qin's house next. Gu Xiaorao nodded quickly and ran towards the closet. At this time, Gu Xiaosang came over. I heard what you two said just now. Brother Lu Chuan, you are too brave to do such a thing. I don't do things that I'm not sure of. Although there are some risks, it is generally under control. Gu Xiaosang laughed excitedly. Now that you have a breakthrough in strength, are you going to deal with those guys? Of course. The first is the Qin family. I want to make this fence sitter pay the price. At this time, Gu Xiaorao came over with a white robe. Lu Chuan took off his clothes and put on a brand new robe. Dong Fangcheng ran in quickly, and he hurriedly ran towards Lu Chuan. It can be seen that he has already carried his bag and walked towards Lu Chuan in a hurry. Mr. Lu, to ladies, let's go quickly. The situation is getting worse. If we don't leave here decisively, I'm afraid we won't have a chance to leave, he said in great panic. Lu Chuan patted his shoulder and said calmly, don't be so anxious. The matter has not been concluded yet. It's hard to say who should flee. Mr. Lu, now is not the time to show off. My third uncle said that he will do his best to delay the enemy here and buy us as much time as possible. When we reach our family headquarters, it will be time for us to fight back. As long as the Green Mountains are there, there will be no shortage of firewood. He looked at Lu Chuan anxiously. Lu Chuan still had no expression on his face. He looked at Dong Fangcheng and said, calm down first, don't be so cowardly. I'll go to Qin's house next. You wait here. After Lu Chuan finished speaking, he walked towards the exit of the courtyard. Dong Fangcheng looked at Lu Chuan's back and was a little at a loss for a while. Should we run away or not? There is no time. Gu Xiaorao looked at Dong Fangcheng and said, it's not a question of whether to run away or not, but a question of whether to fight or not. Lu Chuan has chosen to fight now. How can we fight now? Now is the time when the enemy is at its strongest. What we should do is to temporarily avoid the edge, he said excitedly. Gu Xiaorao shook her head slightly. Believe in Lu Chuan. He now has the strength to break through the enemy's encirclement. What is he going to do at the Qin family? Dong Fangcheng looked at Gu Xiaorao curiously. You know what he is going to do. Wait for the news. Dong Fangcheng immediately knew what Lu Chuan meant after hearing this. Is he going to settle accounts with the Qin family? Well, the first bird to be shot will be shot. This guy sells us out the fastest. If we can deal with them, maybe we can deter people from other families. At this time, Lu Chuan left the Dongfang mansion. There were more and more spies at the gate. They were all from the Lu family, disguised as civilians. After seeing Lu Chuan, they all became alert, fearing that Lu Chuan would escape from Wangxing City. Lu Chuan walked along the street towards the Qin family. The spies also followed quietly behind him. If they found that Lu Chuan was going to the city gate, they would immediately stop Lu Chuan without hesitation. However, after following for a long time, they gradually discovered that the road Lu Chuan took was not the road to the city gate. Instead, he continued to move forward within the city center. Soon, Lu Chuan stopped and stood at the door of Qin's house. Seeing this, the Lu family spies in the distance became curious. Why did Lu Chuan visit the Qin family? Was he going to discuss cooperation? Then, Lu Chuan walked towards the gate. Two guards stopped Lu Chuan. "Mr. Lu, please go back. Our master will not see you." Another guard laughed triumphantly. "You have no chance. If you want to discuss cooperation with our Qin family, you should go back and have a good sleep. You will dream about it." It seems that these two people are very concerned about the situation in Wangxing City. They know that the Dongfang family is doomed and he, Lu Chuan, is also dying. Lu Chuan smiled faintly. He is not here to discuss cooperation. He is here to kill people. Swish. The next moment, Lu Chuan opened his eyes and stared at the two people with dark golden pupils. Buzz. The two suddenly felt a buzzing in their brains and fell to the ground one after another. Chapter 705. Breaking into the Qin family. Lu Chuan just glared at them, and the two guards at the Qin family's door fell to the ground one after another and died on the spot. The soul attack caused by the immortal golden pupil instantly pierced the souls of the two men and killed them on the spot. Those minions who were not even at the martial king level could only die suddenly under Lu Chuan's immortal golden pupil. Lu Chuan walked into the Qin mansion calmly, completely ignoring the two guards at the door. There were many people in the Qin family compound. The compound was quite lively. Some were practicing martial arts, some were sitting in the pavilion feeding fish, and some were reciting ancient scriptures. When they saw Lu Chuan's figure, they all stopped what they were doing and looked over. At this time, a book boy ran towards Lu Chuan. "How did you get in? The guards couldn't let you in. We don't welcome you in our Qin family." Lu Chuan looked at the book boy with a childish face. This guy was not very old, but he was full of momentum. He dared to talk to him like this. "Don't welcome me. Your family master Qin Xiang didn't look like this when he asked us for cooperation in Dongfang Mansion. Ha ha ha. The past was the past, and the present is now. You'd better be sensible. You should know who is the boss in Wangxing City now. If you have a little self-knowledge, you should just be a street rat and escape from Wangxing City." Lu Chuan's eyes were stern. This little boy was not tall, but he had a big mouth. Lu Chuan grabbed his neck directly. The huge force came, and the book boy felt a strong sense of suffocation in an instant. "You, what are you going to do?" He struggled frantically, waving his fists and feet, trying to break free. Due to suffocation, his cheeks were red, like a ripe apple. Seeing this, the rest of the Qin family stood up and walked towards Lu Chuan quickly. "How dare you? You dare to be so arrogant in our Qin family. You are looking for death. Mr. Lu, you have long been a damned person. You dare to be arrogant here today. The people of the Lu family will kill you sooner or later. Put the man down and go back. This is not the place for you. Go and call the master of the family. This bastard is crazy. He doesn't want to escape, but he has the courage to come to our door." The noise of the crowd was extremely chaotic, which made Lu Chuan show an unbearable mood. He twisted hard and broke the book boy's neck directly. Crack. After a crisp sound of joint breaking, the book boy lost his life. In Lu Chuan's hands, he was like a puppet that had lost control. Lu Chuan casually threw the book boy's body into the pond, which caused waves of water. Lu Chuan walked forward slowly, and his powerful aura gradually forced everyone to retreat. You are so brave. You are probably desperate, so you want to die with us. You are dreaming. You are so capable. You have the ability to deal with the people in the Lu mansion. What's the point of bullying us?" They retreated step by step, but they were still not sparing in their words. Lu Chuan moved his wrists. "Today, none of you should go out. I will tell you the fate of being a fence sitter." At this time, Qin Xiang walked out quickly. His face was solemn, and his steps were windy. He walked out of the crowd, stood at the front, facing Lu Chuan. "Mr. Lu, you are so imposing. What do you want to do? We in the Qin mansion will not tolerate outsiders to act wildly. If you go back now, we will treat you as if you have never been here. If you want to fight us, then come on. I Qin Xiang, I'm not afraid of anyone, he said loudly, looking directly at Lu Chuan, without a trace of fear. Lu Chuan walked towards Qin Xiang, stood in front of him, and looked directly into his eyes. Aren't you going to cooperate with the Dongfang family? Why did you go directly to the Lu mansion after you left? Qin Xiang snorted coldly, do you need to meddle in who my Qin family wants to cooperate with? I regret it, and don't want to cooperate with you anymore. Is that not okay? This is our freedom. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Yes, it is freedom, but you shouldn't turn around and join the Lu family. If you remain neutral, I will think you are a coward and dare not bring the Qin family into the game, but you turned around and joined the Lu family. This clearly shows that you want the Dongfang family to die and eat their corpses. Your greed is clear to me. You want to eat the Dongfang family's industry, so you are willing to take the risk to join the Lu family. You have the freedom to join the Lu mansion, and I naturally have the freedom to slaughter your entire family. Lu Chuan's tone was indifferent, without a trace of emotion. Qin Xiang heard this, and immediately took a few steps back, looking at Lu Chuan with a heavy face. What did you say? You want to destroy our Qin mansion? Everyone behind him was in an uproar, looking at Lu Chuan in horror, and their breathing became heavy. Lu Chuan smiled faintly. Yes, you heard it right. I want to destroy your Qin family. You're looking for death. Qin Xiang drew his sword from behind and pointed it at Lu Chuan. I'm a second-grade martial emperor. You dare to be presumptuous in front of me. Even if I can't kill you, I will fight you to the death. After he finished speaking, the long sword in his hand, which was as emerald as jade, was wrapped with a light green airflow. Take my sword. Green dragon stab. He swung the long sword and stabbed at Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan took several steps back and pulled away. Then, the emerald-like airflow shot towards Lu Chuan. Swish. In the airflow, a shadow gradually appeared. It was a green dragon. The sound of the sword breaking through the air could be vaguely heard as a dragon roar. Obviously, this guy tried his best right from the start and didn't want to give Lu Chuan any chance. He was still self-aware and knew that he was not Lu Chuan's opponent, so he tried his best right from the start, baring his teeth and claws as much as possible, trying to force Lu Chuan back. In Qin Xiang's opinion, although he was no match for Lu Chuan, it would not be easy for Lu Chuan to kill him. If they fought to the end, although Qin Xiang would die, Lu Chuan would definitely be seriously injured. Although Lu Chuan did not know his thoughts, he knew one thing: as long as he made a move at will, the strong men in the martial emperor realm would not be able to fight him at all. Lu Chuan drew out the soul-breaking sword, and the sword body blocked the sword energy, bursting out dazzling sparks. He easily blocked Qin Xiang's full-strength attack. Then, Lu Chuan opened his eyes wide, staring at Qin Xiang with his immortal golden pupils. Buzz! Exclamation mark. In an instant, Qin Xiang felt a buzzing in his head, and a stabbing pain came over him, making him weak and exhausted. He knelt on one knee, using the tip of the sword to support his body. He gasped and shook his head hard to make himself as awake as possible. Seeing this, everyone behind him was extremely curious. What happened just now? Why did the head of the family suddenly lose his fighting power? This guy didn't do anything. Why is the head of the family dying? What kind of magic did he use? This bastard. Let's go together. We can definitely kill this guy. The people of the Lu family will definitely kill you. Qin Xiang barely stood up and looked at Lu Chuan with horror. He knew that it was Lu Chuan's soul attack just now. This kind of attack method is definitely not something that ordinary people can master. He suddenly felt desperate in his heart. The gap in strength between him and Lu Chuan was probably a bit too big. Chapter 706. The Qin family's destruction. Just a glare almost made Qin Xiang lose his fighting power, making him half kneel on the ground with cold sweat on his forehead. Such a situation shocked Qin Xiang. He looked up at Lu Chuan and saw that Lu Chuan looked calm and seemed to be really rushing to kill him, not joking at all. He stood up and looked directly at Lu Chuan. Behind him, everyone in the Qin family looked at Qin Xiang's back and couldn't help but worry. The battle had just begun, and Qin Xiang showed his disadvantage. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that the gap in strength between the two was not ordinary. Lu Chuan, I admit that you are strong, but what if you kill me today? The Lu family has already made a real move. They want to kill you. You don't want to escape now, but you dare to come back and attack my kin family. You are playing with fire. He warned Lu Chuan and asked Lu Chuan to face the reality. Even if he killed Qin Xiang, it would not change anything. The Lu family would still attack Lu Chuan and would kill him completely without giving him any chance. Lu Chuan tightly grasped the soul-breaking sword and slowly walked towards Qin Xiang. Qin Xiang, do you think I'm just angry and want to take revenge on you? You want to die, and the Lu family must die. I want to do both. There is no conflict or contradiction, Lu Chuan said calmly. However, when Qin Xiang heard this, he was shocked. You, not only don't you run away, but you also want to attack the Lu mansion? Are you crazy? He lowered his head slightly, frowned, and stared at Lu Chuan with gloomy eyes. Do you know what kind of strength Lu Wu has? You don't even want to run away, but you want to fight back. It's not an exaggeration to say that you are crazy. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. I know that Lu Wu is a martial saint. Martial saint? Don't you know what kind of existence a martial saint is? If you meet him, you will only be killed. No one in the entire Wanxing city is his opponent. It's no exaggeration to say that if the Dongfang family is in the mansion of Wanxing City and there is no martial saint in the mansion, then it is not a problem for Lu Wu to destroy the Dongfang mansion alone. He said very confidently. What he said is not unreasonable. Lu Chuan also knows in his heart that if he is not in Wanxing City, Lu Wu can really destroy the Dongfang mansion alone. Of course, if he doesn't come to Wanxing City, Lu Wu will not come here. In short, the Lu family headquarters has made up its mind to deal with him this time. The Qin family is just an appetizer for Lu Chuan. He is not in a hurry to settle accounts with the Lu family now. He has plenty of time to play slowly. If he had not successfully broken through to the spiritual severing realm, Lu Chuan would not have appeared here calmly. Lu Chuan walked up to Qin Xiang, looked down at him, and asked, are you going to continue to struggle? Do you want me to sit back and wait for death? Impossible. I, Qin Xiang, can build such a family business. I'm not an ordinary person. If you push me to the limit, I will fight you to the end. Even if I can't beat you, I will seriously injure you and let you taste the pain. He said arrogantly, not taking Lu Chuan seriously at all. But this is normal. Qin Xiang grew up in Wanxing City since he was a child. He has heard of all the characters in Wanxing City and knows all the big characters. And Lu Chuan is just an outsider. To him, there is really no deterrent. Then I will send you on your way. Swish. Lu Chuan directly pulled out the soul-breaking sword and stabbed it towards Qin Xiang's abdomen. Puff. The sharp sword pierced into Qin Xiang's abdomen, and blood spurted out and spilled all over the ground. The moment the bright red blood spurted out, everyone in the Qin family was like crazy, and they all screamed loudly. Ah! Murder! You lunatic! You dare to kill our family head! Everyone in our Qin family wants to kill you. Brothers, to protect the family, charged together. Without hesitation, everyone rushed towards Lu Chuan together, relying on their numbers. Qin Xiang's mouth was bleeding, and he quickly turned around, looked at everyone, and shouted loudly, run away. Don't rush over. He shouted loudly. He knew that, if he was not Lu Chuan's opponent, then this group of people would probably die one after another. Lu Chuan drew out the soul-breaking sword, and Qin Xiang fell to the ground. Lu Chuan's sword was so fast that he couldn't react. He deeply understood that the gap in strength between the two of them could no longer be made up. Lu Chuan looked at the crowd rushing over and just smiled faintly, looking for death. Lu Chuan raised his right hand, and the sun god fire appeared in his palm. Then, he pressed his right palm on the sword, and slashed along the sword. Boom! Exclamation mark. A raging fire burned on the sword. Lu Chuan suddenly swung the sword, and a flaming sword energy swept towards the crowd. Boom! Exclamation mark. The huge fireball attacked the crowd. Seeing this, the Qin family members instantly felt a terrifying high temperature contained in it. The moment they realized that something was wrong, it was too late. They turned around in panic and fled in great fear. However, it was too late. The flaming sword energy instantly enveloped everyone, and the flames attached to their bodies and began to burn. For a while, screams filled the entire Qin family compound. The people burned by the raging fire were burned to ashes. before they rolled on the ground twice. Qin Ziyang, who fell to the ground, looked at his family members being burned by the raging fire with hazy eyes. For a while, his heart was dead, and he no longer had any thoughts of resistance. He looked up at Lu Chuan, and said with his last bit of strength, Spare my daughters. This matter has nothing to do with them. Lu Chuan looked down at him and said calmly, I came to your Qin mansion to target you. You betrayed the Dongfang family. Even if you choose to be neutral, I will not bother you. As for your daughters, if they have any idea of revenge, I will make them die more miserably than you. Qin Ziyang sighed and slowly closed his eyes after hearing this. Even though he had infinite regret in his heart, he could only admit defeat. No one knew that Lu Chuan would have the courage to fight back, and he, Qin Ziyang, could not have expected this result. In the courtyard, everyone in the Qin family died tragically. The ashes on the ground were all the bodies of these people. Only those who jumped into the pond barely left their bodies intact. Lu Chuan turned and left here, walking towards the outside of the Qin mansion. Almost all the core members of the Qin mansion were killed, which also announced that the Qin family of Wuxing City was about to perish. The remaining families would not honestly let the Qin family recuperate and grow again. After Lu Chuan walked out of the Qin family compound, he saw a lot of passers-by gathered on the street outside. After seeing Lu Chuan coming out, the group of people dispersed. The screams just now shocked them. Many of them were spies sent by the Lu family. They left here in a hurry and reported the news to the Lu family as soon as possible. Chapter 707 Shock. Inside the Lu mansion in Wuxing City. At the entrance of the ancient mansion, Lu Wansheng was talking with the leaders of other families with a smile. In that case, let's make a deal. If the Dongfang family is destroyed, everyone can get a share. A wealthy man standing in front of Lu Wansheng said with a smile. Lu Wansheng nodded repeatedly. No problem. Thank you for your support. This gives us the Lu family great confidence to deal with the Dongfang family. At this time, the Lu family's servants hurried over. Master, something bad has happened. Lu Wansheng looked a little unhappy and asked, what's the big deal? Didn't you see me chatting with the guests? Master, something big has happened. The Qin family in Wuxing City has been destroyed. Lu Wansheng suddenly widened his eyes, raised his hand, and grabbed the servant's shoulder, and asked in a deep voice, say it again. The Qin family in Wuxing City has been destroyed. Qin Ziyang was killed, and all the core members of the Qin mansion died. They died miserably, burned to death. The servant was sweating profusely, and his tone became very urgent. Lu Wansheng's face became solemn. Did the Dongfang family do it? They are so brave. The situation is over, but they still dare to resist. Do they want to counterattack a few forces before they die? Humph. It's ridiculous. Since the Dongfang family still dares to resist, we will fight them to the end. However, since they were burned to death, the person who killed the Qin family may be that bastard. Lu Wansheng stroked his chin and pondered. He could guess that this was most likely done by Lu Chuan. Master Lu, it seems that the situation is not as expected, or the Qin family is too weak and can't withstand the enemy's attack at all. Lu Wansheng shook his head with a worried look on his face. It shouldn't be. The Qin family is not without strength. Qin Ziyang is a strong man in the martial emperor realm. How could he be destroyed so easily? If the Dongfang family really wants to fight with the Qin family, it won't be so easy. If Lu Chuan takes action, wouldn't it be more difficult for him to destroy the Qin mansion alone? The servant hurriedly reminded. Master, someone saw it at the scene. It was Lu Chuan who did it. After the people in the Qin mansion died, he swaggered out. He looked very arrogant. It must be him who did it. Lu Wansheng hurriedly asked. Only him? He didn't have other helpers? No, I saw him alone. He went in and out alone. Lu Wansheng's face gradually became ugly. Lu Chuan destroyed the Qin mansion alone. Such a feat, no one in the entire Wuxing City could do it. Unless Lu Wu takes action. Could it be that Lu Chuan even has the strength to rival Lu Wu? Thinking of this, Lu Wansheng's heart inevitably became heavy. Master Lu, let's continue our cooperation. The Qin family is unlucky and was taken as the first bird to come out and was defeated in advance. As long as we unite, the Dongfang family is just a paper tiger. Their 500 warriors in the Dongfang family are nothing more than that. Lu Wansheng nodded slightly. You are right. Our cooperation must continue. How about this? You take Yang Ming and let your two families go out together to surround the Danfang mansion. I will take the Lu family's people there later. After we meet up, we will work together to take down the Danfang mansion. The man pondered for a moment and nodded slightly. However, you have to move quickly to avoid any accidents. Don't worry, your task is to keep an eye on An Fangcheng and Lu Chuan, and don't let these two people take out Wangxing City. That's all. Don't worry, such a simple task, we can definitely do it. The man said confidently, and then turned and left the Lu mansion. Looking at his back, Lu Wansheng stroked his beard and smiled. As long as there is no risk, we will be able to defeat our opponent. At the same time, Lu Chuan returned to Danfang mansion. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he saw Dan Fangcheng pacing back and forth, looking very anxious. After seeing Lu Chuan's figure, he hurriedly came over. Mr. Lu, how is the situation? The Qin family is gone, and we have one less threat in the future. As for whether we can deter other families, it's hard to say. Dan Fangcheng was stunned for a moment, and asked quickly, what? The Qin family is gone. Just now, all gone. Dan Fangcheng asked in disbelief. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. Yes, the main members of the Qin family should be dead. Qin Xiang is definitely dead, and now the Qin family should be considered to be destroyed. If they can still keep their family business and survive in Wangxing City, they are really lucky. Dan Fangcheng took a deep breath. The Qin family is gone. The Qin family is not the top family in Wangxing City, but its influence has always been high. Their family business is also very large, with an annual income of hundreds of thousands of taels of gold, which is enough to stand out and make many families out of reach. It is still very sad that such a powerful family is gone, but this is also their own fault. If they just watch the show honestly, wouldn't they have nothing to worry about? Lu Chuan nodded slightly. It's a pity that they are greedy and want to swallow up your family property. Forget it. It won't be long before the Lu family will take action against us. Take a good rest. If you want to fight them to the end, I will support you. As the proud son of the Danfang family, Dan Fangcheng naturally didn't want to run away when he met the enemy. As long as there was a chance, he wanted to fight with the Lu family. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. No problem, I'll go back first. If there is any new movement, let me know. Lu Chuan walked towards the guest room yard. As soon as he entered the yard, he saw Gu Xiaosang standing under the peach tree practicing swordsmanship. Lu Chuan walked towards her. How is this Xiansu sword? Gu Xiaosang put away her movements, turned to look at Lu Chuan, and replied, not bad. It's a top grade weapon, and it has the characteristics of fire attributes, which suits me very well. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. The reason why I chose this sword for you is that, first, the size and weight are suitable, and second, this sword has the fire attribute, and I can attach the divine fire to it. Lu Chuan raised his right hand and activated the Sun Divine Fire. Then, he threw the divine fire towards the sword body. Swish! The flames fell on the sword body and instantly covered the entire blade. Seeing this, Gu Xiaosang exclaimed, the flame is left on it. This is your most powerful sun god fire. How long can it last? Gu Xiaosang asked in great surprise. Lu Chuan thought for a moment and said, about an hour. If you use it frequently, it may go out faster. However, your sword itself is of fire attribute, so it should be able to carry the sun god fire for a longer time. Gu Xiaosang nodded slightly. Great. In this case, wouldn't my attack also have the power of the sun god fire? Thank you, brother Lu Chuan, for helping me find this sword. Lu Chuan patted her head and said with a smile, keep practicing. Chapter 708 Surrounded. In the courtyard, Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang were practicing the weapons they had obtained in secret. Gu Xiaorao had already mastered the skills, except for setting traps. However, with the secret manual in hand, and the opportunity to consult and Zhu Wu, she was still improving very quickly. Lu Chuan watched the two practice weapons. After an unknown amount of time, he saw Dan Fangcheng walking in. Dan Fangcheng walked towards Lu Chuan, his face rather serious. Obviously there was some new news. Master Dan Fang, just tell me what's going on. Lu Chuan looked at Dan Fangcheng. Master Lu, those families that have joined forces with the Lu family have finally taken action. The blacksmith shops, hotels, restaurants and the like near our Danfang mansion have all closed down. Then, someone saw that the people from those big families were all stationed inside, seemingly waiting for something. They are setting up a siege, obviously to encircle us. I guess they will attack us when the Lu family gives the order. Dan Fangcheng said worriedly. Whenever he has any news, he always comes to Lu Chuan to discuss it first. In Kunlun domain, whoever has strength has the right to speak. After Lu Chuan pondered for a moment, he asked, are we surrounded? Basically, it's so crowded that no one can get through. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. It seems that they want me to visit them. Ah, are you going to fight them? Dan Fangcheng was a little surprised. Lu Chuan made a decisive decision and wanted to fight them without saying a word. Would it be bad if we just rushed over to fight without preparation? Dan Fangcheng asked cautiously. No, there's no need for any bullshit game. When you have overwhelming strength, these are secondary. I just want to end the battle in the most straightforward way. Lu Chuan's goal was clear. Since he could end the opponent directly, there was no need to waste too much time. Lu Chuan looked at Gu Xiaorao and said, you and Xiao Sang stay here. If possible, set up traps here to prevent anyone from attacking you. Dan Fangcheng said quickly, don't worry about that. The Danfang family will use all their force to protect them. Okay, then I'll go out and burn all these fence sitters. Then it's just us and the Lu family who are left. Mr. Lu, can you handle that bastard Lu Wu? Dan Fangcheng asked nervously. We can handle it. We don't need to run away. We may not lose if we fight head on. Lu Chuan is now extremely confident. With the strength of the spiritual realm and the 2 divine fires on his body, he is not afraid of the strong men in the early stage of the martial saint realm. I'm afraid that only the strong men above the 3rd level of the martial saint realm have the strength to kill Lu Chuan. Lu Wu has just broken through the martial saint realm not long ago, and he is definitely not Lu Chuan's opponent. The two are definitely fighting. Lu Chuan walked towards the gate and met Nzu Wu at the door. He stood at the door and looked outside with a worried look on his face. After seeing Lu Chuan, he hurried over. Mr. Lu, the situation doesn't seem good. You should practice well with those disciples. Don't worry about those things. It's not your business. Nzu Wu nodded slightly. I know. By the way, teach Gu Xiaorao more and let her set traps. This is very important. Nzu Wu nodded quickly. No problem. I will teach her to set traps and let her protect herself. Well, you don't have to worry about the enemies outside. I will take care of it. After that, Lu Chuan walked out. Nzu Wu looked at Lu Chuan's back and couldn't help shaking his head and sighing. Fortunately, I didn't take the Cheyenne Wu sect to settle accounts with him at the beginning. I almost miscalculated. After the death of the second Elder Gulai, the people of Cheyenne Wu sect were all excited and wanted to seek revenge on Lu Chuan. Only he, Nzu Wu, calmed down. After some persuasion, other important figures in the sect also calmed down. Making this decision today allowed his Cheyenne Wu sect to survive. Lu Chuan stood on the street, which was empty and no one could be seen. It was so deserted, which was obviously wrong. This place was obviously under control, and outsiders could not come here. What was about to happen here, other people in Wangxing City probably didn't want to know. But looking at the result, we can roughly guess what happened. Lu Chuan walked on the empty street, his eyes fixed on the restaurant next to him. It was almost evening, and the restaurant should be very busy. However, they simply closed down. But Lu Chuan knew that people from other families had already entered the restaurant, always obeying the orders of the Lu mansion, and preparing to take action against the Danfang family. In this case, let's start from here. At this time, in the lobby of the restaurant, more than a dozen tables were lined up together, freeing up a huge space. A group of people stood here, listening to Yang Ming's speech. He stood in front of the crowd, his eyes constantly scanning the crowd. You are all the most talented younger generations of the Yang family, and your strength is at the martial king level and above. Today is the time to test you. In another hour, the Lu family will be here fully equipped, and then we will surround and take down the Danfang family. After we succeed, you will all receive a gold reward. so work hard. Don't miss this once in a lifetime opportunity. Yang Ming walked back and forth, brainwashing everyone with speeches to make them realize the importance of this battle. Master Patriarch, I heard that the Qin family was destroyed. Is this true or false? It is already their limit for the Dongfang family to destroy the Qin mansion. They are at the end of their strength and can only drag a weakling into the water. Don't worry. The man continued to ask, but Master Patriarch, I heard that the one who destroyed the Qin mansion was a person, not the Dongfang family. That person seems to be the enemy of the Lu family. What kind of person can destroy an entire family by himself? I don't know, but his strength must be terrifying. If we meet this guy, I'm afraid we will be lambs to be slaughtered. Then let's not talk nonsense. Can an ordinary person destroy the Qin family by himself? Yang Ming felt impatient and shouted, shut up, all of you. You are all scared before the fight even starts. Are you worthy of being members of the Yang family? Even if one person destroyed the Qin mansion, so what? Don't you know Lu Wu's strength? We have Lu Wu's endorsement. What are we afraid of? Just do it. If you can't defeat him, Lu Wu will naturally take over. What are you afraid of? Yang Ming shouted loudly, making everyone quiet down. Okay, everyone calm down. Don't be afraid of one person. When the fight starts, there will be dozens of you all coming together. So why are you afraid of one person? Yang Ming continued to cheer everyone up. At this time, Lu Chuan walked in. Why is the head of the Yang family so angry? Lu Chuan walked slowly. Swish! Exclamation mark. At once, everyone turned around and looked in the direction of Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan. Yang Ming pointed at Lu Chuan and exclaimed. Chapter 709 Final Materials. Yang Ming suddenly screamed, which immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the restaurant. They all looked towards the door at the same time, and when they saw that it was indeed Lu Chuan, they were all fully armed and ready for battle. There were nearly 30 people in the Yang family, all of whom picked up their weapons and formed a battle formation, ready to fight Lu Chuan at any time. Lu Chuan walked towards the crowd and said lightly, don't be so nervous. Yang Ming pointed at Lu Chuan and shouted angrily, you are already a dying man, but you still have such courage. Aren't you afraid that Lu Wu is here? So what if Lu Wu is here? He will die sooner or later. Lu Chuan still didn't care. Yang Ming was frightened by Lu Chuan's performance. If Lu Chuan was not afraid of Lu Wu, how could he calm Lu Chuan? He became nervous, and his raised right hand couldn't help but tremble. Lu Chuan, this is the first time we have met. I think you are indeed a talent. You don't even want to escape now, but want to fight us instead. This is enough to prove how unwise you are. Now, you just wait to die. You will pay the price for your stupidity, he said proudly. Lu Chuan raised his right hand and pulled out the soul-breaking sword. Yang Ming narrowed his eyes and began to worry when he looked at Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan said, you should have heard about the demise of the Qin family, right? How can your Yang family be more special than the Qin family? They are all powerful and wealthy in Wanxing City, with many businesses. But your core combatants are just this few. If I kill them all, it means that your family will be destroyed. The fate of going against me is death. Whether it is the Qin family, your Yang family, or any other family, it's all the same. Yang Ming shouted angrily, you are so arrogant. Lu Wu will teach you a lesson. He will kill you without mercy. He shouted angrily, trying to suppress Lu Chuan with the name of Lu Wu again. There is almost no one in Wanxing City who cannot be suppressed by the name of Lu Wu. These two words are not the most important. The most important thing is his ridiculously strong martial saint realm strength. This is what brings everyone a sense of oppression. And it is precisely because of this that these Wanxing City families have joined the Lu family, forming a siege, and come together to encircle the Dongfang family. Seeing Lu Chuan so imposing, Yang Ming began to get nervous. He even vaguely sensed that the crisis was in front of him. If the Lu family could not show up in time, even if Lu Wu could kill Lu Chuan, Yang Ming would not be able to see that day. Lu Chuan stepped forward quickly, and then everyone came up with weapons in hand to stop him. Don't be so presumptuous, this is our territory, get out. The leading sturdy man glared at Lu Chuan and shouted loudly. Lu Chuan's eyes were stern, and then he raised his hand and swung out his long sword. Swish! Exclamation mark. The sword blade drew an arc and instantly broke the sturdy man's body. Almost in the blink of an eye, a sturdy man who was just arrogant and proud was directly split into two and became a corpse. After a plop, blood instantly spread to the surroundings. Lu Chuan continued to look at everyone and asked, "Who wants to continue?" Lu Chuan's question made everyone hold their breath and concentrate, not daring to breathe. They were all afraid of repeating the same mistake and being split in two, so they all retreated. Seeing that the situation was not good, Yang Ming hurriedly shouted, "Everyone, come on, why do the Yang family usually keep you for food? Whoever can stop this man, I will reward him with 1,000 taels of gold." However, when he said this, no one listened to him, but continued to retreat 2 steps. Seeing this, Yang Ming was dumbfounded. "A bunch of cowards, come on," he cursed. He was just thinking in his mind that he would let this group of brothers rush up to attract firepower so that he could take the opportunity to escape from here and then go to the Lu family to find Lu Wu, and then it would not be too late to take revenge. But if these people are cowardly and are unwilling to work for him, then he will be completely helpless. This Lu Chuan can destroy the Qin family, and naturally he can also destroy the Yang family. The Yang family is not much more special than the Qin family. The heads of the families are all powerful warriors in the martial emperor realm. Although in Wangxing City, this is considered to be the top level powerhouse, the most powerful. However, compared with the real big guys, they are still far behind. Yang Ming immediately accepted his fate. He looked at Lu Chuan and showed an awkward smile. "Mr. Lu, we can talk slowly if we have anything to say. There is no hurry. I have no ill will towards you." He quickly broke his usual habit and began to show a flattering smile, rubbing his hands and smiling awkwardly at Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan smiled disdainfully. "I know you want to delay time, but it doesn't matter. You can delay it as you like. Whoever comes will die. Your name is Yang Ming, right?" Yang Ming nodded repeatedly. He was happy in his heart now. This Lu Chuan was not afraid of Lu Wu. He was still too young. In the end, he still fell into his own trap. As long as Lu Wu came, the situation would immediately reverse. Yang Ming walked towards Lu Chuan and said with a smile, "Yes, my name is Yang Ming. Please don't misunderstand me. I brought my family members to hold a celebration banquet and specially booked this restaurant for us." Lu Chuan couldn't help laughing. Since it's a celebration banquet, it should be lively and lively. Why is the door closed and it's so quiet outside? If you don't know, you would think it's closed. Okay, stop talking nonsense. I know what you are going to do. Yang Ming smiled prettily helplessly and could only nod repeatedly. "I want to ask you, does your Yang family have material called Wanling grass?" Wanling grass. This is a rare material which gathers the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into one, absorbs the essence of the sun and the moon, and has a wide range of uses. Many people are looking for this thing. I'm too lazy to listen to your introduction. Just tell me directly, does your family have it? Yang Ming shook his head repeatedly. "We Yang family definitely don't have it. Absolutely not." Lu Chuan stared at him and continued to ask, "Really not?" Yang Ming scratched his head and lowered his head slightly, as if he was hesitating about something. He finally smiled awkwardly. "If I can help you, can you spare my life? If you can really help me, then of course I can spare your life. If you dare to lie to me, I will make you die miserably." "No problem, Mr. Lu. Our Yang family has the materials you mentioned. If you want them, please come back with me to get them." Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "No problem, but you'd better understand that even if you wait until Lu Wu gathers a team and rushes over, nothing can be changed." "I know. Then should we go get them now?" Lu Chuan pondered for a moment and shook his head slightly. "No need. Wait a moment. If you want to remove the seal, you need to use the divine fire to burn it for 3 hours to remove the bronze seal. Lu Chuan doesn't have 3 hours now. If he goes to get the materials to remove the seal now, then when he comes back, the Dongfang mansion will probably be finished." Chapter 710. The war begins. As night fell, the area around Dongfang mansion seemed to be isolated. No pedestrians could be seen on the street. The streets that used to be bustling seemed extremely deserted today. The residents around knew what they were going to do. Dongfang House became a no-go zone, which meant that a big war would take place there. On the main road of the city, Lu Wu led his army, heading south along the main road, towards the location of Danfang Mansion. The army marched in a square formation, and the 2 rows around held torches to illuminate the street. All the places they passed were closed and dared not go out. Many people peeked at Lu Wu through the cracks in the door. Seeing the nearly 2-meter height, burly figure, and hard golden armor, people couldn't help but feel shocked. Such a fierce and powerful man, ordinary people might not even have the courage to face him. Danfang Mansion is going to be unlucky. This is one thing everyone realizes. They know even more clearly that, if they fall asleep tonight, Wangxing City will lose a huge noble family the next day. At that time, the Lu family will completely dominate the entire Wangxing City. This is not good news for the people of Wangxing City. At the same time, Dan Fangcheng paced back and forth in the Danfang Mansion, feeling extremely nervous. Then, the spy hurriedly came to Dan Fangcheng, looked at the people of the Danfang family, and hurriedly reported, "Lu Wu has gathered his men, and is rushing to our house. How should we respond next?" Dan Fangzun looked at Dan Fangcheng and said, "Xiao Cheng, you hide first and let me take over. Third uncle, forget it. You are no match for Lu Wu. In the end, we still have to place our hopes on Lu Chuan. That Mr. Lu doesn't have a deep connection with us, and we don't have much friendship. Can we trust him?" Dan Fangcheng pursed his lips helplessly. "I don't know, but he is very confident. I choose to believe him this time. We should have just run away. This is the safest way. Now, we can only wait for good news." Dan Fangzun looked at Dan Fangcheng, and continued to ask, "By the way, where is Lu Chuan? Let's call him over to discuss it with us. He went to settle accounts with people from other families around, and he probably won't be back for a while. We are already facing a formidable enemy. Why don't we call him back?" Dan Fangzun asked nervously. Dan Fangcheng waved his hand and said disapprovingly, "Lu Chuan knows what's going on, and I don't know where to find him. He's surrounded by other families, so he could go anywhere. Well, anyway, as long as we fight, the noise here will be loud and people around can hear it." On the other side, Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang returned to the wing room, sat in front of the bed, and waited nervously. "Sister, how is the trap set? It should be no problem. If someone with strength below the Martial King realm wants to break in, he will definitely be killed by the trap. If it's the Martial King realm or above, it's hard to say." Gu Xiaorao looked at Gu Xiaosang and said, "You have to believe in Lu Chuan's strength. He can deal with the enemy. Well, it's just that my heart is pounding, and I'm a little nervous." At the same time, on the street outside the Danfang Mansion, on the wide stone brick road, Lu Wu led his army slowly forward. They had a total of hundreds of people, all of whom were the most elite warriors. Lu Wu walked slowly, calmly, and composedly, as if destroying the Danfang family was not a difficult task. He suddenly stopped and shouted to the people around him, "Everyone can come out." His roar was like a tiger roaring in the forest, and everyone around him could hear the noise instantly. Swish. The next moment, the 2 rows of shops around opened their doors in unison. They all came out after hearing Lu Wu's order, ready to follow Lu Wu to break into the Danfang family, and after defeating the Danfang family, they would divide up their family business together. On the street, people kept coming out and gathered towards Lu Wu. After a while, people from 5 or 6 families came out, and there were nearly 200 people gathered. After Lu Wu glanced around, his brows suddenly frowned. "One is missing. Where is Yang Ming? Who has seen Yang Ming?" Lu Wu asked loudly. However, everyone shook their heads, saying that they didn't know. "This bastard, you're just scared now, right? When the matter is over, see how I deal with that bastard. Dare to stand me up, I'll destroy your entire Yang family." Lu Wu shouted angrily, clenching his fists. In a nearby restaurant, Yang Ming felt a chill down his spine when he heard this. Lu Wu threatened to destroy their Yang family, which was too unlucky. "It's bad. I'm going to die anyway," Yang Ming said very aggrievedly. Lu Chuan smiled faintly. "Don't worry, you won't die in Lu Wu's hands. The food chain in Wangxing City is that Lu Wu eats you, I eat Lu Wu, and I'm the one at the top. You guys just stay here. I'm too lazy to monitor you. If you dare to escape from Wangxing City without permission, I won't forgive you." Yang Ming quickly begged for mercy. Brother, don't worry, our family business, that our ancestors have worked hard for is here. We can't leave here. Lu Chuan nodded slightly, then pushed the door and walked out. Then, Lu Chuan saw a huge crowd of people gathered on the street outside. There were nearly 1,000 people gathered here, making the street much more crowded. At this time, Lu Wu, surrounded by the crowd, walked to the door of Danfang Mansion. Then, Danfang Cheng and Danfang Zun appeared at the door, and all the thugs of the Danfang family stood behind them. Danfang Cheng looked at Lu Wu and asked in a serious tone, Lu Wu, what do you want us to do? You should know what I want you to do. You already know. Lu Wu took down the huge black gold battle axe from behind, clenched his hands, and stared at Danfang Cheng coldly. Danfang Cheng was not afraid at all, and stood firmly in his position, staring at Lu Wu. Really? Since you want to fight, why bother to the ring? Just do it. Lu Wu laughed. Ha 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 ha. Okay, I like people like you who are straightforward. But before that, call that bastard named Lu Chuan to me. I want to kill him. I want to kill him with my own hands. This bastard killed my people. I will never forgive him. Danfang Cheng sneered. You come to find Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan is also waiting for you. Haha, he is not afraid of me. I'm afraid he doesn't know my strength at all. Danfang Cheng continued. Of course he knows. He learned it from Lu Meng. Lu Wu's eyes suddenly lit up, and he asked quickly, who are you talking about? Lu Meng. Yes, is there a problem? Hand her over, or I will tear you into pieces now. Lu Wu raised the battle axe and suddenly became aggressive. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 711, Fierce General. Seeing Lu Wu suddenly become fierce, Danfang Cheng couldn't help but laugh. Do you know Lu Meng? She has been with me for a while, in the main mansion. As a young junior, she came here to study, and I happened to give her some pointers. She is undoubtedly a member of our Lu family. I have the obligation to protect her life, so you'd better release Lu Meng, otherwise, I will make you miserable. Danfang Cheng laughed. I'm sorry, I can't make the decision. This person was captured by Lu Chuan. I have to ask his opinion, whether to release him. Lu Chuan, where is that bastard? Let him get out of here. I want to kill him. Lu Wu roared angrily. Everyone around was frightened by his roar and took a few steps back, not daring to get close. Lu Wu's killing aura made people feel terrified, and they didn't dare to get close at all. In the crowd, Lu Chuan's figure slowly walked over. The rest of the people quickly made way for Lu Chuan to slowly walk over. Lu Wu turned around and saw Lu Chuan's figure in the crowd. Okay, I thought you were scared and didn't dare to come. I didn't expect that you really have the courage. I admire you. You have the courage to face me. You are much stronger than others. Lu Wu held the axe handle with both hands and walked towards Lu Chuan. Hand over Lu Meng. I will let you die with dignity. Lu Wu threatened. Lu Chuan said disapprovingly. Lu Meng's life is in my hands, just like your facial features. How dare you say this to our Lu family? You deserve to die. You are born low and low. You are not worthy of being my opponent. Lu Wu said arrogantly. In his eyes, Lu Chuan is an inferior person for two reasons. First, he is the son of Lu Kangsheng, the abandoned son of the family. Second, he is a martial artist who grew up in the secular world and practiced martial arts. These 2 points made Lu Wu hate Lu Chuan from the bottom of his heart and look down on Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan was not angry about this. He had to keep calm and calm down next. Although he had broken through to the realm of the spirit severing realm, he was not much stronger than Lu Wu in terms of hard power, and he still had to rely on the divine fire to fight. Everyone, disperse. Everyone obeyed the order and dispersed, leaving a wide open space for the next battle between the two. Then, Lu Wu raised the black gold battle axe and walked towards Lu Chuan. Danfang Cheng, who was not far away, looked at Lu Chuan's figure and couldn't help but worry. This battle was very important. It was related to the life and death of the Danfang family and the Lu family. At least it was the life and death of the Wangxing city. Therefore, Dong Fangcheng was very nervous, and Dong Fangzun was also very nervous. At this moment, both of them held their breath and looked at Lu Chuan's figure seriously. Lu Wu didn't regard Lu Chuan as an opponent at all. He didn't use any martial arts or show any moves. He rushed towards Lu Chuan. Die. He swung the battle axe and swept towards Lu Chuan. Seeing this, Lu Chuan quickly used the martial arts extreme shadow flash. Swish. The axe blade swept past, but only hit Lu Chuan's afterimage. Lu Chuan quickly pulled away and dodged Lu Wu's fatal blow. Seeing Lu Chuan's agile figure, Lu Wu was immediately surprised. I admit that you are very fast, but how can you break through my excellent armor? From now on, I will be the only one to hit you, so don't even think about fighting back. Lu Chuan sneered and then drew out the soul-breaking sword. Then he controlled the sun god fire with his left hand and attached it to the sword. Seeing this, Lu Wu frowned and his face became serious. I will set you on fire directly. Can your armor block it? Lu Chuan's words made Lu Wu angry and stared at Lu Chuan with gritted teeth. Then let's try it. The sword body of Lu Chuan's soul-breaking sword was covered with a layer of flames, and then the people around began to talk about it. This flame looks very unusual. I can feel the high temperature from such a distance. It's really not an ordinary flame. Did this man burn the Lu family's shop and Lu Yan with this flame? Too scary. This raging fire is definitely not ordinary. Dong Fangcheng looked at Lu Chuan expectantly. He wanted to see Lu Chuan's true strength. And Lu Wu could definitely force Lu Chuan's true strength out. Die. Lu Wu roared and then rushed towards Lu Chuan. He took a heavy step with a fierce momentum and unstoppable force. In an instant, he rushed to Lu Chuan. Swish! Exclamation mark. Lu Wu swung his battle axe and chopped it down at Lu Chuan. Seeing this, Lu Chuan quickly raised his soul-breaking sword to block it. Clang! Exclamation mark. With a crisp sound, dazzling sparks fell like a meteor shower. As Lu Chuan blocked the attack, his arm shook. Lu Wu's strength was simply terrifying. If Lu Chuan had not broken through to the spirit-severing realm, he would not have been able to block this fierce attack. After Lu Chuan blocked this attack, he could not help but take a few steps back. However, this was still beyond Lu Wu's expectations. In his expectation, when his axe chopped down, the long sword in Lu Chuan's hand would definitely be split in two, and the whole person would be hit by the battle axe. However, Lu Chuan quietly took a few steps back and completely blocked it. This was completely beyond Lu Wu's expectations. He looked at Lu Chuan in surprise and asked in surprise, "Why did you?" He showed a puzzled expression. It's not that he hasn't fought with strong men in the martial emperor realm. The first moment he broke through to the martial saint realm, he found a friend who had sparred with him in the past and fought again. The result was undoubtedly an all-round crushing to the extreme and pressing the opponent to breath. Lu Wu, on the other hand, was at ease and easily won the sparring. The gap was so big that he even swelled up. No one in the martial emperor realm could be his opponent. He was amazed. Lu Chuan's performance in this attack was beyond the martial emperor realm. His strength reached a level that he could not figure out. What is your strength level? He asked loudly in disbelief. Lu Chuan stared at him and said calmly, "You are not qualified to know." Then, Lu Chuan suddenly raised his hand and bounced back the blocked battle axe. Lu Wu stepped back a few steps, stabilized his body, and took a deep breath again. "It seems that you are going to force me to use my full strength. You can do this, and you will die without regrets. Martial Saint Fighting Soul, open." After he shouted angrily, the next moment, behind him, a glowing soul appeared and attached to his body. Lu Wu, who was emitting light all over his body, was now surging with momentum, as if his strength had increased by more than half. The whole person was as imposing as a rainbow. When he walked towards Lu Chuan, the air around him was flowing faster. Seeing this, Lu Chuan suddenly became nervous. This was the unique effect of the martial saint realm. By activating the fighting spirit, his strength was further improved. This was going to be a tough fight. Chapter 712, showing off his prowess. When Lu Wu merged with his own martial saint fighting spirit, a radiant light enveloped him. At this moment, the murderous aura released from him was extremely shocking. The people watching around him all stepped back several steps. Even the soldiers who had fought with Lu Wu on the battlefield had to back off and stepped back several steps. This murderous aura alarmed many people around. The crowd sent by the major families to besiege him couldn't help but marvel at the powerful aura Lu Wu had released. This is a martial saint realm expert. Just from the momentum, he has already won many. Martial saint realm, I have only heard of it. Today I actually have the opportunity to see it with my own eyes. I'm really lucky. When a martial saint realm expert takes action, there should be no opponent in this Wanxing city, right? That's not nonsense. The strongest person in Wanxing city is only Liu Wansheng from the Lu Mansion. He is a 5th grade martial emperor realm. With this strength, he will definitely be slaughtered by Lu Wu. They are from the same family. The age difference is almost 1 generation, but the strength difference is so big. This is a genius. We can't compare at all. Everyone was amazed. Lu Wu's martial saint realm strength made them have endless reverie. Now that they can see a martial saint realm expert take action with their own eyes, this is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them. Many people looked at Lu Chuan with pity. In their eyes, Lu Chuan has become a background board to set off the martial saint realm expert. However, most people don't care about the background board, but only care about how Lu Wu performs. At this time, Lu Wu opened his heyday and rushed towards Lu Chuan without hesitation. His momentum was more swift than before. Lu Chuan could clearly feel that Lu Wu's speed had also been strengthened, nearly twice as fast as before. Lu Chuan could only use the extreme shadow flash skill to widen the speed gap between the two. As expected of a warrior, his fighting power was indeed fierce. Lu Chuan then opened the immortal golden eyes, and his pupils turned dark gold. He opened his eyes wide and glared at Lu Wu. Boom. Buzz with a roar in his brain. Lu Wu's footsteps paused and stopped in place. He raised his hand to support his forehead, his face showing discomfort, and when he looked at Lu Chuan, his eyes revealed a bit of strangeness. He asked in a low voice, "Asshole, what did you do?" This mental attack caused negligible damage to him, but it could really affect his combat performance. After this, he had to be extra cautious when facing Lu Chuan. If Lu Chuan suddenly released this mental attack when the fight reached the white hot stage, it would be a huge threat to Lu Wu. Everyone around him became serious. Lu Wu's condition was obviously beyond their expectations. When they saw Lu Wu rushing towards Lu Chuan, they thought that Lu Chuan would be in trouble if he chopped down with the axe. However, Lu Wu stopped halfway. What's wrong with Lu Wu? Why did he stop suddenly? He looks uncomfortable. Is he having a headache? No way. Is he having a headache at this time? Tell me, is it possible that this is Lu Chuan's method? How is it possible? Being able to interrupt the mental attack of a martial saint must be extraordinary. Ordinary people can't release this skill. Everyone was talking about it, curious about Lu Wu's sudden change. Then, Lu Chuan walked towards Lu Wu. Haha, you dare to walk towards me on your own initiative. You are quite courageous. In this case, I will send you off and let you face the reality. He shouted arrogantly, then he tightened his axe and rushed towards Lu Chuan. He rushed to Lu Chuan in a flash, then he held the end of the axe handle and swung the axe towards Lu Chuan. The fierce sweep brought gusts of wind, and thick dust was raised around. Whoosh! The heavy black gold axe whistled, and Lu Chuan did not dare to hesitate at all. He stepped back and dodged the attack of the axe. Lu Wu's face suddenly showed a fierce light when his fierce attack was dodged by Lu Chuan. He stared at Lu Chuan, staring at Lu Chuan's figure, and said, "You guys, your body is quite flexible, but that's all you can do. You just rely on this skill to run around and survive until today. Can you dodge one move, but can you dodge my chain moves?" Without saying a word, he rushed towards Lu Chuan again. This time, although his speed was very fast, there was one thing that caught Lu Chuan's attention. His legs were so fast that after images appeared. Almost in an instant, he rushed to Lu Chuan. Seeing this, Lu Chuan quickly drew out the soul-breaking sword to block it. Clang! Dazzling and dense sparks splashed in all directions, and sparks scattered all over the ground, shining brilliantly. Then, Lu Wu pulled back the axe and chopped it down one after another. The horizontal and vertical chops came one after another, leaving Lu Chuan no chance to breathe. Lu Chuan also hurriedly raised his sword to block, but was beaten back step by step. After several exchanges, Lu Wu's face became heavy. He stared at Lu Chuan with gloomy eyes, as if he had a bad premonition. His continuous chops could not hurt him at all. Even his powerful black gold axe could not cut off the opponent's rapier. Many signs showed that Lu Chuan's strength was probably not simple. Apart from anything else, there were few weapons in the entire Kunlun domain that could withstand his continuous chops. He had met many opponents before, and when they fought with him, they didn't dare to clash their weapons, because they were afraid that their weapons would be shattered, making him completely lose his combat effectiveness. However, Lu Chuan was not afraid of this at all. He held a thin sword and blocked it forward, not worrying that the sword would be damaged. Lu Wu shook his head. He looked at Lu Chuan's bronze sword. The blade looked very ordinary, without any outstanding features. How could such a simple sword have such toughness? He didn't understand, and the others didn't understand either. In this short fight, everyone felt that the fight was very enjoyable, and Lu Wu's attack was absolutely fierce. But what they didn't expect was that Lu Chuan could actually defend it. This is too unusual. Anyone who can block Lu Wu's fierce attack is definitely not an ordinary person. For a moment, when everyone looked over, they all had strange expressions on their faces. This Lu Chuan actually blocked all of Lu Wu's attacks. It's really strange. Is his strength also at the martial saint level? Impossible. Could there be two martial saints fighting each other in Wuxing City? Absolutely impossible. If he is not at the martial saint level, then is there anyone in the martial emperor level who can withstand Lu Wu's combo? It's really strange, and the most important thing is that this Lu Chuan didn't even use the martial saint battle spirit, and his strength is still the most ordinary. If Lu Wu is not his opponent, then I'm afraid the ending will be beyond our imagination. Chapter 713, White Hot. The first round of competition made everyone feel that something was wrong. The people from the major families in Wuxing City looked at Lu Chuan in great surprise. They even wavered in their hearts, thinking that Lu Wu might be almost the same as Lu Chuan in terms of strength. At this time, the deputy general who had been with Lu Wu for the longest time stood up. "Shut up, our general is invincible. What are you talking about here? You are only at the martial king realm, and you can't even find a strong man at the martial emperor realm. With your strength, you can analyze the battle of the martial saint realm. Shut up, and watch how our general kills this bastard." The adjutant shouted arrogantly, and everyone immediately shut their mouths, not daring to say another word. Everyone turned their attention back to Lu Wu and Lu Chuan. They found that after the two men had a brief fight, they all distanced themselves. After these few fights, Lu Wu began to adjust his strategy. He originally activated the martial saint fighting spirit directly, intending to fight quickly and quickly resolve the trouble of Lu Chuan. Unexpectedly, even so, the fight was still so tricky, which was beyond his expectations. He stared at Lu Chuan and seemed to notice something was wrong. "Tell me, what is your current strength?" Lu Wu asked loudly. Lu Chuan stood there calmly, looked at Lu Wu, and said calmly, "You are not qualified to know. I will kill you later, and you will naturally know what my strength is." Lu Wu gritted his teeth and roared, "Damn bastard, dare to say such a cruel word to me. You are looking for death. Today I must chop you into meat paste, to let you know how powerful I am." He was irritated by Lu Chuan's attitude. He was one of the most talented people in the Lu mansion, but now he was despised by Lu Chuan. How could he keep calm? The next moment, he swung the axe and chopped towards Lu Chuan. However, the distance between the two was nearly 10 meters. Of course, Lu Chuan knew that he was not chopping the air casually, but was about to release the impact. His sharp eyes locked onto the axe blade, and he suddenly saw a stream of red air flowing down with the axe blade. Whoosh! The axe blade whistled down, and the sharp airflow on the axe blade instantly shot towards Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan knew that this Lu Wu was bulky and would definitely learn one or two long-range martial arts. Therefore, Lu Chuan was prepared in advance. Lu Chuan only learned one martial art from his body, which was the extreme shadow flash. Lu Chuan had no shortage of offensive skills, and his two great divine fires could make up for this. But the only thing he lacked was agility, so Lu Chuan took a fancy to the extreme shadow flash and chose to learn this martial art. Lu Chuan had no intention of dodging the attack in front of him. He directly raised the soul-breaking sword and blocked the impact. Clang! The harsh sound of metal clashing made many people cover their ears. The flames splashed in all directions, which was very dazzling. Lu Chuan was shocked and retreated repeatedly. The sword was shaking violently. It was obvious that Lu Wu's attack was very powerful and ordinary people could not resist it at all. Seeing this, Lu Chuan knew that this guy's attack was getting more and more fierce, and he could not continue casually. Without hesitation, he took out the sun god fire and covered the sword body of the soul-breaking sword. Boom. The raging fire burned on the sword body, and the bright flame instantly illuminated the surroundings. This sun god fire was much brighter than the torches around. The dozens of torches around were not as bright as Lu Chuan's sun god fire. Looking at such a dazzling flame, Lu Wu felt something was wrong. This flame was obviously not an ordinary flame. I know you are the controller of the flame, but I'm very curious, what kind of strange flame is this? It is so bright and the temperature is so amazing. Lu Wu asked curiously. Lu Chuan said disdainfully, you are not qualified to know, you only need to know that you die under this flame, that's enough. This remark angered Lu Wu again. Asshole, you're looking for death. You dare to be so arrogant to me, I'll chop you to death with an axe. He roared and rushed towards Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan held the hilt tightly and swept it towards Lu Wu. Boom. The fiery sword energy instantly spread out and swept towards Lu Wu. Seeing this, Lu Wu frowned. At the moment, when the sword energy was released, he clearly felt how terrifying this high temperature was, and as the sword energy came, he gradually felt how high the temperature was. He knew that he could never withstand such a high temperature, otherwise, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. Thinking of this, he could only grit his teeth, squat down, and start to mobilize the spiritual energy in his body. Boom. The spiritual energy in his body burst out, covering his body, and forming a protective shield around him. Boom. The fiery sword energy attacked instantly, and when it swept past Lu Wu's position, it was blocked, and a gap appeared. He blocked the raging fire with all his strength, and his body was unscathed. Although it consumed too much spiritual energy in his body, he was helpless. If he didn't block it, it would be even more difficult for him to fight. Seeing this, Lu Chuan couldn't help but sigh that the strong men in the martial saint realm were indeed extraordinary. Not only were they strong in hard power, but they also had many means. The few fights just now made Lu Chuan's right arm slightly numb. If he hadn't broken through to the spirit severing realm, he might not be able to withstand Lu Wu's attack. He looked down at his sword, and the flames burning on it were much weaker. He could only turn the sun god fire again, and wipe it on the sword. Constantly calling out the sun god fire was quite physically and spiritually consuming for Lu Chuan, but only by calling up the sun god fire could he easily defeat his opponent. Not far away, Lu Wu's deputy general saw this, and felt something was wrong. He stared at Lu Wu, clenched his teeth, and his nervous heart was hanging. He looked at the captains next to him and whispered, if Lu Wu is at a disadvantage or about to be defeated, we will attack directly and not continue the duel with the two. The other captains nodded. However, one of them asked curiously, will General Lu Wu lose? He has fought countless opponents, and has never lost, since he broke through to the martial saint realm. He has indeed never lost, but this does not mean that he is invincible, and will not fail. I think this man is not ordinary. It is hard to say who will win or lose for the time being, but if the general is at a disadvantage, we must attack. Today we have more people. As long as we fight a melee, we will be the winner. No matter what, we must win today. The deputy general said with a serious face. The other captains nodded and obeyed the order. For this deputy general, what he had to do was to protect the general and lead the army to victory. This duel was just for fun for Lu Wu. He just wanted to kill his opponent with his own hands. If a war really breaks out, these elite troops can wipe out the Danfang prefecture in an instant, and Lu Chuan alone will not be able to stop them. Chapter 714 Reversal. The battle became more intense, and neither side could decide the winner. Lu Wu stared at Lu Chuan, and his heart was no longer relaxed and confident as at the beginning. He even felt something was wrong, because Lu Chuan was in such a good state. It was as if he had not been in a hard fight. He took a deep breath, looked at Lu Chuan, and said, you are indeed capable, but I came to Danfang Mansion today to win. No matter what, this duel will not affect the result. After that, He opened his arms to show the huge crowd behind him. The people from several major families, including the elite troops he brought with him, were his confidants. His purpose today was very simple: to destroy Dongfang Mansion and kill Lu Chuan. No matter what, he believed that he could do it. The suppression of numbers alone has reached the extreme. Lu Chuan also knew in his heart that the current situation would not be very good. There are so many people around here. If they really want to launch a siege, Dongfang Mansion will probably be destroyed. But they are not completely helpless. Although Dongfang Mansion cannot withstand so many opponents. But if he can successfully kill Lu Wu, there may be a chance. The key is that Lu Chuan must find an opportunity to kill Lu Wu directly and not give him a chance to escape. Once he lets him escape, he can still command the team to attack Dongfang Mansion. But if he can find an opportunity to kill Lu Wu directly, then the group of dragons will be leaderless, and the courage of these people to fight will be much smaller. Lu Chuan thought of a way, and the best way was to let the Nine Heavens mysterious fire come. The Nine Heavens mysterious fire can cause amazing damage when the enemy has wounds. The most important thing is that it is gorgeous and strange. It can burn directly on the body when the enemy is not paying attention, sending the enemy to the west. It seems that we can only pin our hopes on the Nine Heavens mysterious fire. Dongfang Cheng looked at Lu Chuan. He stared at Lu Chuan with hope in his eyes. Now, Lu Chuan is their only hope. Only if Lu Chuan wins, Dongfang Mansion will have a chance to survive. Everyone in the Dongfang family looked at Lu Chuan expectantly. Although they were not as numerous as the enemy, they all had a strong desire to survive and wanted to survive at all costs. Lu Chuan rushed towards Lu Wu. This time, he chose to take the initiative and not be passive all the time. If he wanted to kill Lu Wu, he had to take the initiative. Seeing this, Lu Wu burst into laughter. You are very good at running away and blocking, but if you take the initiative, your weakness will be exposed. In his eyes, Lu Chuan has excellent blocking and body speed, which should be Lu Chuan's strengths. But if Lu Chuan takes the initiative to attack, then the ability to run away and block will be gone, right? So, Lu Wu thought Lu Chuan had exposed a flaw, and he swung his axe directly to meet him. Swish! The two rushed at each other, full of momentum, and everyone's heart was hanging. In this confrontation, both sides seemed to have exerted all their strength. Clang! Exclamation mark. Lu Chuan swung his sword on the axe, then turned his wrist and stabbed the blade downward. Seeing this, Lu Wu quickly lowered his posture and continued to block. Clang! Lu Chuan drew back his long sword and continued to slash at Lu Wu. Lu Wu blocked several consecutive attacks. Suddenly, Lu Chuan found a flaw and stabbed Lu Wu's shoulder with his sword. Lu Chuan's soul-breaking sword stabbed Lu Wu's shoulder in the gap of the armor, and blood flowed down the golden armor. But then, Lu Wu laughed and swung his axe towards Lu Chuan's abdomen. Swish! The axe blade cut across Lu Chuan's lower abdomen, and blood spurted out. Do you naively think that you can find my flaw? Ridiculous. I showed it to you on purpose. Compared to the two of us, whose wound is more serious? Lu Wu laughed triumphantly. Lu Chuan took several steps back and covered his lower abdomen with his left hand. Not only Lu Wu laughed triumphantly, but the soldiers around him also laughed, and they all felt that Lu Chuan's decision was ridiculous. This guy's too naive. He was fooled by the bait. He is so average. Is this his strength? He still wants to fight with our boss. It's ridiculous. He was blocking just now. I thought this guy had some strength. It turns out he is so weak. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Is this his strength? As soon as he attacked, all his flaws were exposed. He can only hide. Everyone laughed, and their laughter was full of pride. Lu Chuan stepped back a few steps and raised his left hand. However, his abdomen, except for the blood red at the beginning, was empty. There was no blood flowing out, nor did it stain his white robe red. There was nothing, except a horizontal blood stain on his lower abdomen. It was as if the axe just now did not hit Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan stood up, looked at Lu Wu, and said calmly, my attack has just begun. Aren't you too proud too early? Seeing this, Lu Wu's smile froze, his eyes were dull, and when he looked at Lu Chuan, 10,000 question marks appeared in his mind. Impossible. I chopped very deep with my axe. You should be seriously injured. Why? The wound has healed? He looked at Lu Chuan in disbelief. Even if he was a martial saint, the healing speed of his body was not so outrageous. This Lu Chuan, it was as if the wound healed the moment he was injured. It was simply outrageous. What on earth did you do? He shouted angrily. He couldn't understand why this happened. Lu Chuan actually healed the wound completely in an instant, which was beyond his cognition. The rest of the people, who were just laughing, fell silent at this moment. They looked at Lu Chuan's figure with incredible eyes. Lu Chuan stared at Lu Wu's left shoulder, knowing that this wound was not enough, and he needed to hit the right side of this guy's body again. The wounds were evenly distributed, and when he released the Nine Heavens mysterious fire, the burning speed would be fast enough. He must find an opportunity to kill Lu Wu in seconds. Otherwise, once his army launches an attack, it will still be extremely difficult. Lu Chuan did not hesitate and rushed towards Lu Wu again. Lu Wu was ready for battle. After the lesson just now, he knew that he could no longer be careless. The Lu Chuan in front of him obviously had many methods, and each of them was effective. He must treat it with caution. Lu Chuan rushed to Lu Wu again. Lu Chuan swung the soul-breaking sword several times in a row, and slashed at Lu Wu continuously according to the sword moves in the Xiaoyao sword manual. Lu Wu blocked continuously. This time, he decided not to give any flaws and blocked to the end. Suddenly, Lu Chuan opened his eyes wide, and the immortal golden pupil was released again. Boom. The brain roared, and Lu Wu suddenly felt dizzy and dizzy. He blinked quickly, trying to wake himself up. But then, he felt something was wrong. He gave the opportunity, and the enemy would definitely seize this gap. Of course, Lu Chuan created this opportunity, just to deal a heavy blow to Lu Wu. He swung the soul-breaking sword, and chopped it towards Lu Wu's chest. Chapter 715, The Power of the Nine Heavens Mysterious Fire. Lu Chuan opened his immortal golden pupil, and launched a soul attack, creating a gap for his attack. Lu Wu covered his forehead with a painful expression. He shook his head to make himself more awake. However, Lu Chuan had already rushed to him, swung the soul-breaking sword, and slashed at his chest. Lu Wu looked up and suddenly saw Lu Chuan in front of him, which frightened him instantly. He quickly stepped back, and raised his battle axe to block in front of him. However, Lu Chuan was one step faster, and slashed directly on Lu Wu's chest with a sword. Clang! Exclamation mark. The sharp sword blade hit his golden armor, and dazzling sparks burst out. Lu Chuan felt the sword in his hand, paused for a moment. Although it caused Lu Wu's golden armor to be worn, it did not successfully break the armor. Therefore, Lu Chuan's sword actually had no effect. Lu Chuan quickly retreated to keep a distance, not daring to stay close to Lu Wu for too long. The armor on Lu Wu was quite unusual, and his soul-breaking sword could not easily break it. It would probably not be an easy task to create a wound. Lu Wu glared at Lu Chuan and scolded, "Your tricks are useless to me. Are you looking for death?" He roared and rushed towards Lu Chuan. With anger, his pace became more fierce. Almost in an instant, he rushed to Lu Chuan. He held the tail of the axe handle, turned his body, and swept the battle axe towards Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan could clearly see that there was a touch of blood red light on the axe blade held by Lu Wu. This axe was fierce, and Lu Chuan would never resist it. If he resisted it, he would be seriously injured. Lu Wu is not only powerful, but also a rare martial saint. The equipment on him is all top grade. It is definitely not comparable to the equipment on the martial emperors in Wangxing City. So just now, when Lu Chuan slashed at Lu Wu with a sword, the blade failed to break his armor. Lu Chuan looked down at the soul-breaking sword in his hand. If he could unlock this sword, he might be able to cause damage to Lu Wu's fighting spirit. Unfortunately, the soul-breaking sword in Lu Chuan's hand can only cause damage to evil spirits. Lu Chuan stared at Lu Wu and said, "Your equipment is very good, and it has brought you to a level of strength that does not belong to you." Lu Chuan could see that Lu Wu's fighting style was very barbaric and rough, which was a habit left on the battlefield. The top duel between the strong is still about details and the judgment of timing. Lu Chuan now chose to temporarily avoid the edge, using the martial arts extreme shadow flash, and after quickly pulling away, Lu Chuan raised his left and right and summoned the Nine Heavens mysterious fire. The colorful flames appeared in Lu Chuan's palm, instantly attracting everyone's attention. Lu Wu's axe swept across and hit nothing, stopped and looked at Lu Chuan, and shouted disdainfully, "A coward who can only run away." Then, his eyes were on the nine heavens mysterious fire in Lu Chuan's palm. "What kind of strange flame is this?" he asked in some doubt. Strange means unknown, and he needs to be extra cautious about it. He knew the characteristics, effects, and functions of the sun god fire he encountered before. But this colorful flame like a rainbow made him a little puzzled, and he couldn't figure out what effect this flame had. Lu Chuan just smiled faintly, didn't say much, and directly covered the sword with flames. Although he failed to create more wounds, once this flame attached to Lu Wu's body, it could also cause considerable damage. If you want to kill Lu Wu with the nine heavens mysterious fire, it is almost impossible. But if you can cripple your left arm, it is still possible. Lu Chuan swung the soul-breaking sword covered with flames, and swung a sword energy in the direction of Lu Wu. The sword energy with blazing fire quickly attacked Lu Wu. The gorgeous flames dazzled everyone. Such a colorful flame was the first time these people present had seen it. Boom! Exclamation mark. The raging fire came at once, and the sword energy with the nine heavens mysterious fire was 3 or 4 meters wide, and it was extremely fast. If Lu Wu wanted to dodge it, it would be almost impossible to dodge it. Unless he threw away his armor and improved his sensitivity, this would be possible. When the fire came, Lu Wu knew that this fire was definitely not ordinary, and he would definitely not sit and wait for death. He gripped the axe handle tightly and began to swing it vigorously. Axe blade storm. He roared, swung the battle axe, and began to circle and sweep out. Then, on the axe blade, a series of strong winds came, trying to catch this storm, to resist Lu Chuan's flaming sword energy. His operation was not without effect. The momentum of the flames was instantly weakened a lot, but it still couldn't stop the attack of the sword energy. Boom! Exclamation mark. The sword energy hit Lu Wu's chest, and the strong impact made him retreat several steps in a row, and he almost stumbled and fell to the ground. He quickly stabilized his body and began to slap the flames on his body. At this moment, part of the flame spread to the wound on Lu Wu's left shoulder. Boom! Exclamation mark. The flame at the wound seemed to have found something to burn, and the flames became strong again, and the pillar of fire that rushed out was 1 or 2 meters high. At this moment, Lu Wu felt an unprecedented pain. Even if he was seriously injured on the battlefield, he had never felt such pain. He quickly raised his hand to cover the wound. His expression became ferocious, and the whole person fell into endless pain. He gritted his teeth and tried not to scream, otherwise, he would lose face in front of his subordinates. The severe pain made him sweat all over his body. His muscles were sore all over, and he knelt on one knee, with sweat pouring down his forehead. He took a few breaths of cold air, and when he looked at Lu Chuan again, his eyes suddenly became gloomy. "Asshole, you are playing a dirty trick on me, right? Tell me, what did you do?" he asked angrily. Lu Chuan spread his hands and said disapprovingly, "This is not a shady trick. This is the characteristic of my own magic weapon. You just don't know it. Besides, I don't seem to have the obligation to tell you this. Besides, you don't deserve to know my stuff." Lu Chuan continued to ask, "How is it? Can you lift your left arm?" Lu Wu clenched his teeth, and his back molars were grinding and clacking. The cold sweat on his forehead kept dripping down, wetting his clothes. He stood up again, and looked directly at Lu Chuan. "It's just a minor injury, not worth mentioning." He stood up again. In fact, his entire left shoulder was about to die, and now his left arm could hardly move freely. He held the axe handle with one hand in his right hand, and stared at Lu Chuan, as if he was making some kind of determination. Lu Chuan looked at him, and it seemed that something was wrong. He seemed to be going to die generously. Did he intend to fight for his life and make a last gamble? Then what means did he intend to use for this last gamble? Chapter 716 The Last Gamble. After his left arm was almost crippled, Lu Wu's heart sank. He felt bad and knew that the situation was not favorable for him. He took a deep breath and stared at Lu Chuan with dark eyes. He did lose this time. He and his opponent should be evenly matched, but because he did not understand his opponent, he made a major mistake and accidentally crippled his left arm. If he continued to fight hard, the situation would definitely not be optimistic. Failure is almost a foregone conclusion. He could not stand such a result. How could he, a generation of Lu Manshan die in Wangsing City? He still had a bright future and prospects waiting for him. He could not die. Even if he had to die, he had to pull the man in front of him with him. At the same time, Lu Wu's subordinates nearby seemed to see that the situation was not good. Lu Wu's deputy general stared at Lu Wu's figure, and he suddenly realized that Lu Wu's arm seemed to be seriously injured. It stands to reason that Lu Wu needs to hold his hands tightly and exert force together to swing the heavy battle axe in his hand. But now, Lu Wu's left arm naturally drooped, and it seemed that he could not control it. He could only control the battle axe with one hand. Although he had enough strength to manipulate the battle axe at will, there was still a huge gap between holding it with one hand and holding it with two hands. For Lu Wu, this was equivalent to losing part of his combat power. However, his opponent, Lu Chuan, could quickly heal, even if he was injured in the abdomen. Compared with the two, the gap was much more obvious. Lu Wu regretted that he did not fight with all his strength at the beginning and spent some time with his opponent. He could not outlast his opponent. At this moment, the adjutant looked at Lu Wu and asked loudly, "General, I think the competition between the two of you can end now. Now, let's get down to business." As soon as these words came out, everyone present became nervous. Lu Chuan frowned. If he let this group of people take action directly now, the suppression of numbers would be difficult to break. The adjutant could see that it was difficult for Lu Wu to defeat his opponent, so he made this suggestion. If they chose to take action directly now, they still had the advantage in numbers and could still destroy the Dongfang mansion. Dongfang Cheng looked at Lu Wu and shouted, "Lu Wu, you are halfway through the fight. Are you going to run away? I think you are a coward." When Lu Chuan got the upper hand, Dongfang Cheng was so excited. With a martial saint in charge in the Dongfang mansion of Wangsing City, wouldn't it be easy to walk around Wangsing City in the future? But now, if the two sides start fighting, the result is hard to say. After all, Lu Wu has a large number of people, not only his elite team, but also the core masters of major families. In this case, once the chaos starts, regardless of the outcome, the battle here will be tragic, with casualties everywhere. However, after hearing the words of the deputy general, Lu Wu shook his head. "No, I want to kill this bastard with my own hands." When the deputy general heard this, he was stunned. He was very puzzled. He didn't know what General Lu Wu was thinking. The current situation is obviously very unfavorable to him. If he continues to fight, it will be difficult to win. This kind of battle without hope of victory is completely meaningless. Everyone was shocked when they saw Lu Wu's attitude. Just when everyone was puzzled by Lu Wu's choice, Lu Wu's body began to change. The layer of radiant light covering him seemed to have undergone some special changes. The martial saint fighting spirit attached to him and enhanced his strength turned into a dark color in an instant. And Lu Wu, as if shrouded in a layer of darkness, fell into the darkness. His eyes glowed blood red, staring at Lu Chuan and laughing loudly. "I'll kill you now. Today I will die with you," he roared angrily and walked towards Lu Chuan. Then, the soul-breaking sword in Lu Chuan's hand trembled violently, and the buzzing sound made Lu Chuan look solemn. He held the hilt tightly with both hands. It was the first time he saw the soul-breaking sword tremble so violently, which was obviously very unusual. Lu Chuan immediately realized that this guy, like the people he had met before, had an evil spirit in his body, which was awakened when he was fighting to the end and temporarily improved his strength. But the price is that they will gradually be controlled by the evil spirit. Some people don't know that this power comes from the evil spirit, don't know that they have improved their strength with the help of the evil spirit, and don't know that they will be killed by the evil spirit and occupied by the body one day in the future. But Lu Wu in front of him is obviously not the case. He seems to have made this decision with the determination to die. Lu Chuan realized that this guy knew that there was an evil spirit in his body. I'm afraid he also knows that he has the strength today, and it is also inseparable from the help of the evil spirit in his body. Lu Chuan clenched the long sword and rushed towards Lu Wu again. In this case, he still has the advantage. The damage caused by the soul-breaking sword to the evil spirit is very terrifying, and it can easily kill the evil spirit. After forcing the evil spirit out of the body, Lu Chuan used the immortal golden eye again, which could easily kill the evil spirit. The immortal golden eye may cause a little less mental attack on people, but its power is not soft at all against evil spirits and some evil things. When Lu Wu saw Lu Chuan rushing towards him, he was shocked. His aura was so violent, but his opponent didn't run away, but rushed towards him. Where did this guy get the confidence? Lu Wu roared, "You dare to take the initiative to attack, you are looking for death. Today, you will definitely die. Even if I die, I will drag you on the road." Not far away, Dongfang Chengxin, who was at the gate of Dongfang Mansion, was so angry that his throat was raised. He could clearly feel that Lu Wu's aura was surging, and his strength had increased by more than a little. In such a violent state, it was hard to say whether Lu Chuan could still be his opponent. After all, the martial arts fight between the two just now was already difficult to resolve, and it was only by relying on some magic weapons and skills of Lu Chuan that he successfully gained the upper hand. When everyone looked at the two, they were very nervous. In Lu Wu's violent state, the monstrous murderous aura seemed to cover the surroundings, making everyone feel like they were facing a great enemy, and they dared not breathe. At this moment, Lu Chuan rushed to Lu Wu, looking for death. Lu Wu's left arm surprisingly recovered, and he held the axe with both hands and chopped down at Lu Chuan. This time, he swung the axe so fast that it left an afterimage, and people couldn't even catch it. Seeing this, Lu Chuan could only avoid the sharp edge and dodge first. This speed surprised Lu Chuan. This guy's speed seemed to have increased by nearly double. Swinging such a heavy axe, it was like air, and it chopped down in an instant. This guy's strength has increased by more than a little. I must find the right time to use the soul-breaking sword to pick out the evil spirit and kill it. Chapter 717 You don't deserve to know. Lu Wu was like a madman. He chopped down with an axe, but missed Lu Chuan. Then he rushed towards Lu Chuan like crazy. He rushed forward with a momentum that seemed to ignore everything, like a wild bull out of control. Lu Chuan dodged quickly, and soon he was sweating and panting. He had tried his best to avoid Lu Wu's attack, and he dared not be careless. His physical strength was almost exhausted. If he couldn't find a flaw, he would be exhausted to death. However, Lu Wu was sure to die. He drew out the evil spirit in his body. As long as the battle was over, his body would be occupied by the evil spirit. Lu Wu rushed forward again. Although his strength had been greatly enhanced, he seemed to have lost his mind and could only rush forward. If he was hit, he would be in danger of death. But Lu Chuan would not give this opportunity. Then, Lu Chuan stood in place, staring at Lu Wu's figure. Lu Chuan saw his sprint trajectory clearly. Everyone became nervous when they saw Lu Chuan suddenly stand still and stop dodging. Lu Chuan stood still. This guy should be tired. I feel tired just watching him dodge continuously. He must be exhausted. It is indeed possible. After all, the battle just now has consumed a lot of physical strength. It is normal that he can't hold on. If he can't dodge this time, he will at least lose an arm or a leg. It seems that the winner has been decided, but I don't know if Lu Wu's ability to overdraw physical strength will have any side effects. I saw that his posture just now seemed to be determined to die. I think he is overdrawing his life to fight. It is really possible. After all, the speed of his strength improvement is too exaggerated. Just now there was a back and forth, and now Lu Chuan can only escape unilaterally. This is completely a crushing strength. The current Lu Wu should have the strength of the second level of the martial saint realm. Otherwise, Lu Chuan would not have been so embarrassed. It seems so. Both of them are at the first level of the martial saint realm, but Lu Wu overdrew his life so much that he forced himself to the second level of the martial saint realm. If we still can't beat him, then there's nothing to say. It's impossible that we can't beat him. The martial saint realm is not one of those low-end cultivation realms. It's quite exaggerated to boast about the gap between one grade. That's right. In the martial saint realm, the gap between one grade is astonishingly large. In a battle with a 1 grade opponent, there is absolutely no possibility of counterattack. Everyone discussed it and finally came to the conclusion that Lu Chuan must die. This was almost a unanimous conclusion. Since Lu Wu was possessed by the evil spirit, his performance was too amazing. Lu Chuan was beaten and fled in a panic, and he was also physically exhausted. There was no possibility of counterattack at all. Under such circumstances, they did not think that Lu Chuan had the means to counterattack. Even Don Fangcheng was the same. He looked at Lu Chuan pessimistically. He knew that if Lu Chuan died now, it would be their Dongfang family's turn next. He wanted to help Lu Chuan now, but he knew that he only had the strength of the Martial King realm, and he couldn't help much if he came up to fight. Instead, it might drag Lu Chuan down. Even Lu Wu could kill him instantly with just one strike. The collision between Lu Chuan and Lu Wu happened in an instant. At this moment, everyone held their breath and watched the final confrontation between the two with great solemnity. Swish! Lu Chuan suddenly sprinted. He did not exhaust his physical strength, but looked for an opportunity to sprint. He used all his strength and burst out at his fastest speed. At this moment, he briefly came to Lu Wu's side and caught the gap before he turned around. This opportunity was fleeting. Lu Chuan did not hesitate. He stretched out his right hand and thrust the soul-breaking sword in his hand at Lu Wu. Swish! When the sword touched the soul body of Lu Wu, it pierced directly into the soul body. The next moment, Lu Chuan thrust upwards with force. Then, a black soul was directly picked up and peeled out of Lu Wu's body like a cocoon. Swish! The black soul flew out and hung in the air. Lu Wu's body suddenly stiffened, and then he fell to the ground with a thud. Everyone cried out in surprise when they saw this, and they found this result unbelievable. At the same time, they looked up at the sky and were puzzled when they saw the black soul. They were all curious about it. What is this? It seems to be a human figure, a soul? Is there another soul in Lu Wu's body? This is too weird. Anything can happen in Kunlun domain. What is this? Lu Chuan did not hesitate, and regardless of the surroundings, he directly opened the immortal golden pupil. The dark golden pupil stared at the black soul, and almost instantly, a strong light corroded the body of the black soul. Other black soul let out a shrill whine, and the scream made everyone feel creepy, and many people trembled all over. Then, the body of the black soul continued to be burned and corroded, just like a vampire under the sun. Swish! The body of the black soul was corroded into debris underground, and fell on Lu Wu. Lu Wu fell to the ground, announcing the end of his life. Lu Wu died, and died completely. He was already dead when the evil spirit took his body, but he fell down now. Lu Chuan walked up to Lu Wu, stepped on Lu Wu's body, and wiped the sweat from his forehead. This is my defeated General Lu Wu. Lu Chuan shouted loudly to everyone. Everyone was silent, and those followers of Lu Wu also stood still at this moment. Lu Chuan continued to shout, now, Lu Wu is dead. Who wants to be the next dead? Stand up. Lu Chuan shouted with full confidence, just to tell everyone that he still has the physical strength to fight, and he can continue to accompany everyone to fight. Seeing Lu Chuan's full momentum, everyone immediately wilted. This is a strong man in the realm of martial saints shouting at them. How can they have the courage to rebel? Lu Chuan kicked Lu Wu's body and kicked him into a corner. Lu Chuan walked towards the deputy general. Aren't you going to fight us? Come on, fight. Let me see what your Lu family army is capable of. The deputy general stared at Lu Chuan expressionlessly. It was unknown what he was thinking in his heart, just looking at Lu Chuan. Speak up, your master is dead. You don't have the courage to talk to me, right? Weren't you very loud just now? The deputy general pursed his lips and sighed helplessly. What did you do just now? Why did Lu Wu, who was so powerful just now, lose to you so quickly? He asked in confusion. He didn't want to fight anymore, but he wanted to figure out this problem. Lu Chuan sneered. You don't deserve to know. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 718. The battle ends. When Lu Wu died, everyone around him lost their confidence, like a deflated ball, and stood there at a loss. If Lu Wu was still alive, he could have raised his arms and shouted, leading this group of people to launch a group attack. But now that Lu Wu is dead, they have lost their backbone, and the deputy general in front of them is far less powerful than Lu Wu. If he dares to shout now, Lu Chuan can destroy him in an instant. The deputy general stood there in a daze, looked around, and felt a little helpless for a while. Lu Chuan stared at him, and continued to ask, "Why, do you plan to continue fighting? Get out of here. If you dare to have any thoughts about me, I will destroy your Lu mansion." Lu Chuan scolded. He didn't want to fight completely now. The other side still had the advantage in numbers. Even if he could win, he would have to pay a price. And if something unexpected happened in the chaos, he couldn't take care of it. The deputy general gritted his teeth, and seemed very unwilling. He glanced at Lu Wu's body, with infinite regret in his heart. He walked towards Lu Wu's body, put his arm on his shoulder, and supported the body to leave. "Brothers, go back. As long as the Green Mountains are there will be no shortage of firewood," he said, and took the lead to leave here. As the deputy general, he admitted his defeat. Among the remaining people, even if some of them were eager to take action, they did not have the courage to take the initiative. They all followed the deputy general, and left here together. Then, it was the people from the remaining several major families. They all stood around nervously, and the atmosphere was very awkward for a while. They were able to join the Lu Mansion camp so decisively, because they were sure that the Danfang Mansion would be destroyed by the Lu Mansion. Lu Wu's strength was too overwhelming, making them feel that they had no means of resistance in the Danfang Mansion. However, they knew nothing about Lu Chuan, and it was absolutely impossible for them to predict the current result. The heads of several major families hurriedly came up and smiled awkwardly. "Mr. Lu, your performance today really impressed us. We are stupid and ignorant. We are really ashamed. Mr. Lu, Lu Wu is a child of destiny and a martial arts genius that everyone is paying attention to. You killed your opponent so powerfully. You are the most talented genius in this Kunlun domain. Master Danfang, please forgive our choice of team. It was really the Lu family who forced us to do this. We had no choice but to do this." Danfang Cheng just snorted coldly. He knew the character of this group of people in his heart. There was never any coercion. They took the initiative to find the Lu Mansion and asked to join the Lu family camp. The purpose was that after the Lu Mansion destroyed the Danfang family, they could get involved and share a piece of the pie. The people of the Danfang family could not have been unaware of this idea, and naturally they would not buy into their words. Danfang Cheng waved his sleeves and turned around and left here. His cold face made everyone present look very unhappy. Then, Danfang Zhen turned to the crowd and said with a smile, "Everyone, please go back. We are still business partners in the future. We should cooperate as needed and do what we should do. Let's just pretend that what happened today never happened." After Danfang Zhen stood up and said a few good words, the crowd gradually dispersed. Before they left, they all looked at Lu Chuan's figure. After the battle just now, they dared not underestimate Lu Chuan anymore. The strong man who could kill Lu Wu was definitely the strongest man in Wangxing City. And such a strong man was actually a cooperative friend of Danfang Mansion. It seemed that they all misjudged the situation in Wangxing City. The real powerful party was the Danfang family, not the Lu family. Lu Chuan turned and walked towards the Danfang Mansion. Danfang Zhen hurriedly stood by Lu Chuan's side and said with a wry smile, "Mr. Lu, your skills just now were really amazing. I was stunned. I didn't expect that Lu Wu was no match for you. When he came before, he gave me a lot of pressure. Fortunately, the trouble is over now and everything is back to normal." Danfang Zhen continued to sigh. "Lu Mansion will definitely not give up. The fight is not over yet." Lu Chuan looked at Danfang Zhen and asked, "Those people are planning to eat you. Aren't you angry?" "I think Danfang Cheng is very angry." "Then what can we do? Kill them all?" "It's not easy. We can only continue to cooperate with them and get more benefits from them. Thanks to you, Danfang Mansion is definitely the first family in Wangxing City now. If we cooperate with those families in the future, we will definitely be the one who benefits more." Danfang Zhen said with a smile. After the two returned to the yard, Danfang Cheng walked towards Lu Chuan. "Mr. Lu, thank you very much for your help. You saved our Danfang family from the dire situation. We were almost expelled from the Wangxing City. It's all thanks to you. No wonder you have the confidence to fight. It seems that you have enough confidence to support you." Dan Fangcheng walked over with a smile of admiration on his face. It seems that it was a wise move for me to win you over to become a friend of our Danfang family. He had heard of Lu Chuan's reputation early in the morning and wanted to win over a strong man, but he didn't expect that Lu Chuan's burst of strength was beyond his imagination. Lu Chuan looked at Dan Fangcheng and asked, "Where are Guxiaorao and Guxiaosang? Are they safe?" Dan Fangcheng nodded quickly. "Of course they are safe. We can still guarantee this. No one will hurt her." Dan Fangcheng quickly assured Lu Chuan that if he couldn't do this, then what qualifications did their Danfang mansion have to become an ally with Lu Chuan? Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "I'm going to the Yang family mansion later," Lu Chuan said, walking towards the guest room yard. Dan Fangcheng followed and asked curiously, "What are you doing at the Yang family mansion?" "They have a material I need, the Wanling grass. As long as I get this last material, I can unseal my sword and unleash its full power." Dan Fangcheng nodded quickly. "I see. It seems this is still an important matter." The two came to the door, and just as they were about to move forward, Lu Chuan's footsteps were tripped by something. Looking down, it turned out to be a transparent silk thread. Lu Chuan squatted down and tore the silk thread apart, then walked in quickly. In the yard, Guxiaorao saw Lu Chuan coming in and quickly stood up and walked towards Lu Chuan. "Lu Chuan, how is the situation? Is the enemy coming?" Guxiaorao asked quickly and then looked at Lu Chuan. "You seem to be injured in your lower abdomen." Lu Chuan smiled disapprovingly. "It's just a minor injury. I have killed Lu Wu. From now on, there will be no force in Wanxing City that can threaten us." Chapter 719 Visiting Yang Mansion. Lu Chuan's words gave Guxiaorao reassurance and made her feel relieved. Guxiaosang also followed and looked at Lu Chuan, asking curiously, "There is a trap set at the door. Didn't you trigger it?" She looked at Lu Chuan curiously and scratched her head in confusion. Lu Chuan shook his head and smiled. "The thread is too weak. It just cut my pants and couldn't hurt me at all." Guxiaorao smiled awkwardly. "The strength of the trap is related to my own strength. The gap between your strength and mine is too big, so it doesn't work. However, it shouldn't be a problem to defend against some gangsters." Lu Chuan turned his head to look at Dan Fangcheng and said, "Go prepare dinner. You should all be hungry." Dan Fangcheng nodded quickly. "No problem. I'll go and tell the kitchen to start cooking. We must prepare a feast today to celebrate our victory." He laughed excitedly, then turned around and walked out of here quickly. "Where is Lu Wu? Has he lost?" Guxiaorao asked. "That's right. He's dead. No one in Wanxing City can be our opponent anymore. Unless the Lu family doesn't give up and doesn't learn their lesson, they will send people here." Guxiaorao nodded slightly and sat down on the chair next to her. "Take a break. It must be very hard to fight against such a strong man." Lu Chuan sat next to Guxiaorao. "It's really tiring. I've never met such a strong man before. There are so many strong men in Kunlun domain. We really need to be vigilant all the time. Lu Wu is definitely not the top strong man in the Lu family. I still need to continue to grow in the future." Lu Chuan smiled helplessly. Although his strength is growing rapidly enough, there is still a big gap compared to those old guys who have practiced for decades. "You guys go to eat first. I'm going to the Yang family mansion." "Where are we going, and what are we going to do?" Guxiaorao asked curiously. "Go get the last material. After getting it, my sword can be unsealed." Guxiaorao couldn't help laughing. "Really? This top grade immortal weapon is really going to be unsealed?" Although she had never seen what an immortal weapon looked like, she had heard of the reputation of this kind of magic weapon. The word immortal was enough to prove its extraordinariness. Lu Chuan took a deep breath. "So, I want to go and get the things as soon as possible, and it's best not to cause any trouble." "Okay, then go and get it quickly. The Yang family shouldn't dare to resist now, and they will definitely serve it obediently." Lu Chuan stood up and straightened his collar. "I'll go first. You guys can eat first. You don't have to wait for me." After saying that, Lu Chuan left Dongfang Mansion. On the street outside, the traces of the fight here were clearly visible. There were more passers-by around, and it seemed that the blockade of this area had been lifted. Now the Lu Mansion no longer had the strength to block the Danfang Mansion, and it was a problem for them to protect themselves. Lu Chuan didn't plan to cause trouble for Lu Wansheng for the time being, and he walked towards Yang Mansion. A servant of the Dongfang family followed Lu Chuan and led the way. He was very respectful along the way, fearing that he would offend Lu Chuan if he was not careful. Soon, Lu Chuan was led to the gate of Yang's house. Lu Chuan walked towards the gate, and the two guards guarding the gate immediately stopped Lu Chuan. "Who is it? Tell me your name." At this time, the servant following Lu Chuan became anxious first and cursed quickly. "You don't even know him? Are you blind?" The guard had been standing guard at the door and didn't know the situation outside. He still said calmly, "So what if I don't know him? Strangers are not allowed to enter the Yang family mansion. If you dare to talk nonsense again, don't blame us for using force." The follower immediately became anxious. "You still want to use force? Don't you know that this is the strongest in Wanxing City? The strongest person? Him? I heard that it was Lu Wu from the Lu Mansion. Who dares to say that his strength is stronger than Lu Wu? You are really brave." The follower sneered. "The Lu Wu you mentioned is dead. Why are you still talking about it? Lu Wu is dead. Impossible. No one in Wanxing City can kill him." The follower sneered. "Hearing you say that, I thought this man was invincible. He is also immortal. Why can't he die?" Lu Chuan stepped forward and raised his hand to block the follower behind him. "Stop talking nonsense. Let me tell you. Let Yang Ming come out. I'll get the things." The guard sneered. "Our Yang family master is busy with all kinds of things, and he doesn't have time to deal with people he doesn't know. You can go and inform him and see if he recognizes me. Tell me your name." "Lu Chuan." The guard nodded slightly. "Lu Chuan." He suddenly thought of something and exclaimed, Aren't you the one wanted by the Lu family? The bounty on your head is worth 100,000 taels of gold." He shouted in surprise. It was obvious that he was not well informed, which might be related to his work. Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "Any problem? Go find your family master and tell him I'm here. If he doesn't come out, don't blame my men for being ruthless." The guard quickly became serious and turned around to walk into the mansion. He walked quickly towards the master's room and knocked on the door. When he stood at the door and said quickly, "Master, there is someone outside to see you." "Who is it?" Yang Ming pushed the door open and walked out. Seeing the guard so panicked, his face began to become heavy. "Is it Lu Chuan?" The guard was immediately shocked. "Master, how did you know? I have something he needs here, and he came to get it. I didn't expect him to come so soon. It seems that he needs this thing very much. Let him in quickly. Why are you standing there?" The guard turned around and walked towards the door. Halfway through, he turned back and came to Yang Ming's side. "Master, this man said he killed Lu Wu. This must be nonsense, right? No one can beat Lu Wu." Hearing this, Yang Ming burst into laughter. "Are you so sure that he can't beat Lu Wu? Of course, Lu Wu is a martial saint. I don't think that man has the strength of a martial saint. Not long ago, Lu Wu died in his hands. The two of them fought one-on-one, and it was quite intense. Although Lu Wu is very strong in brute force, Lu Chuan has many tricks. There are ways to kill him. It's a pity that his hard power and excellent equipment can't help him save the situation." Hearing this, the guard was stunned. "Master, this man, he really killed Lu Wu? Nonsense. Do you think I have time to joke with you? Hurry up and invite him in." The guard was frightened and panicked and turned around and ran towards the door. After returning to the door and seeing Lu Chuan, he bowed respectfully. "I'm sorry I didn't recognize you." Chapter 720 The Final Materials. The guard's attitude changed dramatically after they came in and out. Lu Chuan just smiled and walked into the Yang family mansion. After entering the courtyard, he saw Yang Ming walking towards him with a wretched smile on his face. His pointed ears and monkey cheeks showed that he was a cunning person. However, in the face of absolute strength, no cunning tricks would be effective. Lu Chuan looked at Yang Ming and asked, "Is the thing here?" "Of course it's here, but this thing is a treasure that our Yang family has treasured for many years. We paid a lot to get this thing." Lu Chuan smiled directly, slightly tilted his head, and looked at Yang Ming curiously, and asked, "Are you bargaining with me?" Yang Ming shook his head quickly and showed an awkward smile. Of course not. How dare I bargain with you? I just mentioned that this thing is very valuable. To be honest, I'm very grateful that you didn't kill me casually. How dare I have any other thoughts? Lu Chuan said with a smile. If you didn't say it, I would have forgotten that I could have killed you casually. Yang Ming was shocked and stunned when he heard it. He stood there at a loss. Then, Lu Chuan laughed happily. It's just a joke. Don't be nervous. Lu Chuan scared him and made him realize the reality in an instant. If he was not careful, he might face the disaster of extermination, just like the Qin family. He swallowed nervously. Please follow me. I will take you to get the wanling grass. He hurriedly walked towards the warehouse beside him. Lu Chuan stood outside, waiting quietly. Soon, Yang Ming came out and walked towards Lu Chuan with a smile. Mr. Lu, this is it. I brought it for you. He hurried over, picked up a black wooden box, and placed it in front of Lu Chuan. Sealing it with a good black wooden box can ensure that the spiritual energy of the wanling grass will not overflow. A good wanling grass. This is a good thing. He introduced with a smile. Lu Chuan nodded slightly, then reached out and took the box. When he opened it, he saw a long green grass inside. Lu Chuan clearly felt the spiritual energy contained in it. This is definitely a genuine product. Lu Chuan nodded slightly and put the box in his arms. You are quite sensible. I'll leave now that I've got the things. Okay. Yang Ming nodded excitedly. He was walking on thin ice now, fearing that Lu Chuan would kill him directly if he didn't like it. After all, not long ago, the two were still enemies. So, he was very excited to see that he could send Lu Chuan away. Although he lost a good treasure, at least he saved his life and the safety of the Yang family. When Lu Chuan left the Yang family mansion, Yang Ming followed him to the door before leaving with peace of mind. After Lu Chuan got the 3 materials, he returned to the Dongfang mansion. He now had the 3 materials, but he didn't know how to operate them specifically. He could only go to Chengdu, the swordsmith of the Wanjian pavilion, tomorrow during the day. He would definitely help him unseal the soul-breaking sword. When Lu Chuan returned to the Dongfang mansion, he just caught up with the dinner party. The celebration banquet was held in the courtyard. A total of 10 large round dining tables were placed in the courtyard, and everyone was waiting for Lu Chuan to come back. When everyone saw Lu Chuan coming back, they stood up and shouted to him. Welcome back, Master Lu. Master Lu, our banquet will start soon. You are the protagonist. We dare not pick up our chopsticks until you come back. Dongfang Zun said with a smile. Lu Chuan walked towards the crowd and saw an empty seat reserved next to Gu Xiaorao, so he sat down directly. Why do you have to wait for me? Just eat directly. Lu Chuan glanced at the delicious dishes on the table. They were all delicacies and the ingredients were not common. Dongfang Cheng immediately said, Master Lu, what you said is true. You are a great contributor to our Dongfang family. How can we start eating without waiting for you? Today, our Dongfang mansion defeated the enemy, but it was all the credit of Master Lu alone. No one can take it away. Dongfang Cheng looked at Lu Chuan excitedly. Lu Chuan smiled and raised his glass. Cheers. Everyone raised their glasses, clinked their glasses together, and drank them all in one gulp. Then, the banquet began, and everyone began to enjoy today's food. Today is a happy day for everyone in Dongfang Mansion. It is definitely a good thing that the enemy forces were repelled, not to mention the powerful enemy of the martial saint realm. This is a big relief for them. After Lu Chuan had dinner and was full, he went back to his room to rest. The battle with Lu Wu just now consumed Lu Chuan's physical strength extremely, making him feel tired early, and he went to bed before 9 o'clock in the evening. After dinner, the rest of the people cleaned up the dishes and leftovers, and then dispersed. That night, Lu Wu's death quickly spread throughout Wanxing City. In everyone's cognition, the pattern of Wanxing City has changed again. Dongfang Mansion is now the most powerful family that deserves it. Not only does it have a strong foundation, but now there is a martial saint realm strongman sitting in it. No one in Wanxing City dares to provoke it. All the other families regretted making the wrong decision. They should not have joined the Lu family earlier. The next morning, after Lu Chuan got up, he went to the yard. He put on a brand new white robe and prepared to go out to Wanjian Pavilion. Now, he has become a well-known big man in Wangsing City, the strongest man in Wangsing City, sitting in Dongfang Mansion, and the core figure who made Dongfang Mansion the top boss of Wangsing City. When Lu Chuan came to the street, he instantly attracted the attention of countless people. Many people just took a look, and did not dare to look at him a second time, for fear that they would offend this big man. Lu Chuan just smiled kindly, and walked along the street towards Wanjian Pavilion. At the gate of Wanjian Pavilion, 2 guards were guarding the gate. Lu Chuan came, and attracted the attention of the 2. After the 2 looked over, they immediately took a breath of cold air. Lu Chuan. Both of them were trembling with excitement. Open the door, I'll go in to find someone. Naturally, the 2 did not dare to neglect it, and hurriedly pushed open the door and let Lu Chuan walk in. Facing Lu Chuan, they didn't dare to ask too many questions. They opened the door immediately when asked, not daring to neglect him. After Lu Chuan came to the yard, he pulled a young swordsmith next to him and asked, "Is Master Chengdu here?" "Master Cheng, of course he is here. Are you looking for him?" "Yes, call him over." "No problem, I'll call him over right away." The swordsmith turned around and left quickly, not daring to neglect Lu Chuan, the distinguished guest. Soon, Chengdu's figure appeared in Lu Chuan's sight. Lu Chuan sat in the pavilion, waiting for Chengdu to come. Chengdu walked quickly, and looked at Lu Chuan with a smile. "Mr. Lu, I haven't seen you for a few days. You have become a famous person in Wangsing City." He laughed excitedly. Chapter 721, The Power of the Soul-Breaking Sword. Chengdu immediately showed an excited smile when he saw Lu Chuan for the first time, and hurriedly walked over. He opened his arms, and walked towards Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan walked up to him and hugged him. "Mr. Lu, you are now a famous person in Wangsing City. I thought I was not qualified to see you again." Lu Chuan said with a smile, "That's not the case. I came to you to unlock the sword." "Really? Have you gathered all the materials?" He looked at Lu Chuan curiously. "This divine fire is the most precious treasure in the world, something that ordinary people cannot find in their entire lives. In just a few days, Mr. Lu found the divine fire?" Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "Yes, I have gathered all the materials." Chengdu leaned back and exclaimed, "Have you found the divine fire?" "Of course, I have always had the divine fire. This is the most difficult material to find, and it is the material I have had from the beginning." Chengdu sighed. "So you have already got the divine fire. I heard that the divine fire is of great help in battle. No wonder you have such a strong strength. Even Lu Wu is not your opponent. The divine fire must have helped a lot." Lu Chuan smiled and nodded. "Of course, Lu Wu has excellent equipment and fighting experience on the battlefield. He is definitely an opponent that cannot be underestimated. If it weren't for the blessing of the divine fire, I'm afraid I would be the loser." Chengdu nodded slightly. He had heard about the divine fire a long time ago, and knew how powerful this treasure is, so he believed what Lu Chuan said. "I heard that there are many kinds of divine fire, each with different effects. I wonder if the divine fire you have mastered." He handed the conversation to Lu Chuan. Lu Chuan continued, "The divine fire on me is the sun divine fire. It has extremely strong destructive power, and extremely high temperature. Ordinary people cannot endure it for a moment, and will be burned to ashes. The sun divine fire, I have heard from history books, that this kind of divine fire is the most powerful of all divine fires. Of course, its use will be relatively single, that is, to assist in combat. Not bad. If this kind of divine fire is used to remove the seal of the sword, it will definitely be twice the result with half the effort." Chengdu said excitedly. Obviously, it was a blessing for him to see the divine fire here. "By the way, can you let me take a look? I have never seen a divine fire in my life." Chengdu looked at Lu Chuan expectantly. Lu Chuan nodded slightly, then opened his right hand, and a ball of fire appeared in his palm. The bright flame looked very dazzling. After seeing the flame, Chengdu couldn't help but take 2 steps back. The brilliance of the flame was too dazzling, so he couldn't help but raise his hand to cover his eyes. "This is the sun god fire. I can feel such a high temperature before I get close to it. It's really terrifying. It's worthy of being the origin of the divine fire. It's extremely rare in the world." "No problem. Now that we have the divine fire, what about the other materials?" Lu Chuan sorted out the materials and stored them in a large box. He took out the box and raised his hand to open the lid. The 3 materials are here. Take a look. If there is no problem, start preparing to unseal them. Chengdu checked and nodded. No problem. These are indeed the materials we need. In that case, please move to my forging room. He walked towards the room next to him. Lu Chuan followed closely and came to the forging room. The forging room was spacious and open, with a huge furnace in the middle, and grills, soaking pools and the like next to it. After Lu Chuan walked in, he took Lu Chuan to the grill. There was a furnace below, and a rack above. Put the sword on the rack, and keep roasting it with a fierce fire to burn it red. Chengdu took over Lu Chuan's sword, put the sword body on the shelf, and then picked up 3 materials, and ground them into powder. Then, he covered the powder on the sword body. He did this process very skillfully, and finished it quickly. Then he looked at Lu Chuan and said, "Now, start using the fire to roast it. It will take at least 3 hours to break the seal. As for whether the full effect of this sword can be exerted after the seal is lifted, it is hard to say. Let's see when the time comes." Lu Chuan nodded slightly, and then controlled the sun god fire, and began to heat and roast the sword body. The flames soon burned the sword body, and the sword body gradually turned red. The whole forging room was filled with high temperature, making people sweat profusely. Chengdu stood aside and watched, always paying attention to the condition of the sword body. He looked at Lu Chuan and asked, "What kind of sword is this sealed sword?" He asked curiously. Lu Chuan said casually, "It's the soul-breaking sword. As a swordsmith, you should have heard of it, right? Soul-breaking sword." He frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. "Of course I know. This sword is a real fairy weapon. How did you get such a fairy weapon?" He looked at Lu Chuan in surprise. He was very surprised. He didn't expect that he could actually encounter a fairy weapon here. Lu Chuan smiled disapprovingly and said, "It can be considered as an opportunity. I got it by chance. Most people may not have this luck." "That's right. You are indeed not an ordinary person." Chengdu looked at the sword and shook his head again. "The soul-breaking sword. I heard that this sword is extremely powerful. It ranks in the top 5 in the sword category of the Kunlun domain's weapon list." Lu Chuan looked up in surprise. "It ranks so high? Of course. There are not many immortal weapons in the Kunlun domain. Isn't it normal to rank high? The soul-breaking sword. I seem to have seen it in the weapon list. The sword-making master Jian Ming once wrote an atlas of Kunlun domain's sharp swords, which recorded 8 out of 10 swords in Kunlun domain. This one is one of them. That book has also become an encyclopedia for countless swordsmiths. This soul-breaking sword can cause damage to the enemy's soul. The sword energy released can temporarily shatter the enemy's soul. Before condensing, the enemy will enter a very serious state of weakness. The shattered evil spirit can absorb its soul fragments and collect them into the sword body. At the critical moment, after consuming the soul fragments, it can release an amazing attack. The whereabouts of this sword have been unknown for decades. Everyone thought that this sword was thrown into an unknown place and would never be seen again. I didn't expect that I would see it here." He shook his head and sighed. Lu Chuan couldn't help but be surprised. He could tell so many things just by telling him the name of the sword. It seems that he really knows everything about the famous swords in the world. However, indirectly, Lu Chuan also learned about the strange phenomenon he encountered before. That is, when he killed the evil spirit, a shadow would always enter the sword body. At first, Lu Chuan thought that something unclean had entered the sword body. After Chengdu explained the confusion, Lu Chuan understood the reason. Chapter 722, Unblocking completed. 3 hours passed quickly. In the afternoon, Lu Chuan was still using the sun god fire to roast the sword. The sword was already burning red, and the material covering it gradually fell off completely. The bronze seal was also gradually falling off. Chengdu had been watching from the side, nodding slightly from time to time. It seemed that everything was going well. "It's almost done. It's about to be unsealed," Chengdu said excitedly. He had forged and repaired countless swords, but this was the first time he had seen an immortal sword. It would be a lie to say he wasn't excited. Suddenly, Chengdu shouted loudly, "Mr. Lu, you can stop now." The unsealing was successful. The sword body is pure and flawless, reaching its original state. This is the soul-breaking sword, and this is its true appearance. He walked over with a wet towel, wrapped it around the hilt, and came to the pool next to him with the sword in his hand. He immersed the sword body in it, and the water surface instantly boiled, making a harsh crackling sound. The bright red sword gradually dimmed, and began to show another kind of luster. Buzz, the sword body exudes a dim blue light, which has a breathtaking feeling. Chengdu took the sword out of the pool, and the light on the sword gradually dimmed. There was no bronze seal on the brand new sword body, as if it had just been made. On such a sword body, Lu Chuan could clearly see that it was covered with a layer of various patterns, all of which were mysterious and complex patterns. Lu Chuan took the sword from Chengdu's hand. The moment he held the hilt, Lu Chuan felt his soul shake, as if he was connected to the soul-breaking sword, and the man and the sword were one. Lu Chuan held the sword and turned it over a few times, waving the sword body, feeling the sharpness of the sword. Chengdu continued, "Mr. Lu, this sword looks ordinary, only the mysterious runes on it give people a sense of mystery. But the effect it can produce is quite amazing. You can practice more after you take it back. It's best to find some enemies to spar with and get used to the sword." Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "You just said that this sword can absorb the soul fragments of evil spirits, accumulate them, and gather energy in the future to cause heavy blows. Is this true?" "Of course it is true. These are all recorded and cannot be wrong." "Then how can I accumulate soul fragments?" Lu Chuan suddenly thought that the previous owner of this sword had used this sword to kill countless evil spirits. Doesn't that mean that countless soul fragments have been accumulated in this sword? Thinking of this, Lu Chuan couldn't help but feel excited. "Master Chengdu, how can I check the accumulated soul fragments in it?" Lu Chuan asked. "If your soul is strong enough, you can enter the sword and take a look yourself. If that doesn't work, then we can only release it directly and see what kind of power it can cause." Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "I see. But if we release it directly, although we know how many soul fragments there are, wouldn't the ones accumulated before be gone? This is not really a solution, right?" Chengdu smiled helplessly. "That's true. It depends on whether your soul is strong enough." Lu Chuan looked at Chengdu and asked, "Do you know where I can accumulate soul fragments?" "Well, I actually know a place, but most people don't have the courage to go there." Lu Chuan continued to ask, "Just tell me, I'm not afraid of danger." "It's in Cheyenne Mountain to the west of the city. There is a mass grave in the heart of the mountain. It's haunted all year round. I heard that there are countless evil spirits, and no one who has entered has come out alive. Even if you are lucky enough to come out alive, you are either crazy or disabled, and your whole person is useless. If you don't have enough means, it's not recommended to go there. What's more, there are bandits rampant in Cheyenne Mountain, and they are as ferocious as the living devil." Then, Chengdu smiled faintly, "But with Mr. Lu's martial arts, these obstacles should not be a big deal." Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "Thank you for your advice. I will go there when I have time." After that, Lu Chuan clasped his hands and said, "Thank you, Master Chengdu. As for the reward, go to Dongfang Mansion to ask for it. We are all friends. Why do we need rewards?" "No," Chengdu said with a smile. "Now Dongfang Mansion and Lu Chuan are the strongest forces in Wangxing City. If they can make friends with them, their Wanjian Pavilion will have a much better life in the future. So, if you can do a favor, why should you charge money?" Lu Chuan turned around and left Wanjian Pavilion and returned to Dongfang Mansion. He walked quickly through the crowd and returned to Dongfang Mansion. Then, he returned to his room and locked the door. He drew out the sword and looked at the sword carefully. On the sword body, some rune patterns can be vaguely seen. These patterns are not carved, and they will slowly move along the sword body. This feeling is as if these runes are in another world inside the sword body. Lu Chuan sat cross-legged on the bed and began to close his eyes and meditate. Behind him, Lu Chuan's soul gradually left his body and floated in the air. Then, Lu Chuan's soul floated towards the sword body. After approaching the sword body, Lu Chuan vaguely felt a special suction force. Gradually, he felt as if he was attracted over. Lu Chuan was shocked. There was indeed a small world inside the sword body. Lu Chuan, who was in the form of a soul, rushed into the sword body without hesitation. The next moment, Lu Chuan came to a dark world. The surroundings were boundless, with no boundaries or ends. There were countless spirits floating around. These translucent spirits were floating in the air like jellyfish. Lu Chuan looked up and saw that these slightly glowing spirits were probably soul fragments. Lu Chuan glanced and saw that there were hundreds of them. Lu Chuan roughly counted and found that there were 300 or 400 soul fragments floating aimlessly here. After these soul fragments sensed Lu Chuan's presence, they suddenly rushed towards Lu Chuan. Swish! The dense soul fragments instantly enveloped Lu Chuan. Then Lu Chuan felt that the spiritual energy in his body was being madly extracted. Lu Chuan suddenly felt bad and quickly pulled the soul body out of the sword. Swish! The spirit reappeared and floated in the room. Lu Chuan looked back at his body, still sitting quietly on the bed. Lu Chuan took a deep breath. The large group of soul fragments just now rushed towards him like a mad dog. Fortunately, he came out in time and didn't lose much. He drilled into his body and returned to his body. If so many soul fragments could be released along with the sword energy, it would definitely be a fatal blow to the enemy. It seems that accumulating enough soul fragments in the sword body can become Lu Chuan's killer weapon. Chapter 723 The Lu Family's Stubbornness. After knowing the importance of soul fragments, Lu Chuan decided to go to Cheyenne Mountain outside the city to take a look. There are countless evil spirits in the mass graves over there, and a lot of them should be collected. However, there is still a large group of bandits guarding Cheyenne Mountain. It is not easy for me to break in. If I deal with waves of bandits, it will probably take a lot of time. Finally, Lu Chuan thought of the Lu family. When he first came to Wuxing City, Lu Chuan was robbed by bandits. These bandits were very bold and arrogant. The reason is that they have the Lu family behind them. Not only did they support them with equipment and food, but they also sheltered their existence. The reason was just to secretly target the Dongfang family. Lu Chuan understood that if he wanted to go to Cheyenne Mountain, he would definitely encounter bandits. Therefore, he planned to go to Lu Mansion first. First, open the way for himself, and then go to Cheyenne Mountain. After being well prepared, he looked out the window. It was not early today, so he chose to go to Lu's house tomorrow. The next morning, after Lu Chuan got up early, he saw Gu Xiaorao and Gu Xiaosang practicing in the yard as usual. No matter how hard they worked, it was still a road with no end in sight to catch up with Lu Chuan. But even so, they did not give up practicing. Lu Chuan, are you going out? Where are you going? Gu Xiaorao put away her posture and walked towards Lu Chuan. Let's go to the Lu Mansion. There are some things we need to discuss with them. Gu Xiaorao asked hurriedly. You are not going to attack the Lu Mansion and destroy them too, are you? Gu Xiaosang ran over and shouted excitedly. Okay, let's destroy them. Otherwise they will definitely not sit still and attack us again. Lu Chuan shrugged. I'll go over and talk to them first. If they don't cooperate with me, then there is no need for me to show mercy. If I destroy a family at will, then in the eyes of the people in Wuxing City, won't I become a big devil? That's right. Then what do you plan to talk to them about? I'm going to Cheyenne Mountain outside the city, where there are bandits entrenched. Do you remember the group of people we met when we came here? Gu Xiaorao nodded slightly. Yes, they were funded by the Lu family, so they can be so arrogant on the mountain outside the city. Gu Xiaosang clenched his fists and said hatefully, that gang of bandits really deserves to die. Let's take the people from the Dongfang family and go directly to destroy them. Lu Chuan smiled and said, to destroy a group of bandits, there is no need for such a big battle. As long as the Lu family is not involved, I can do it alone. You continue to practice here. I'll go out for a while. Okay, then you should be more careful. Gu Xiaorao instructed. Lu Chuan nodded and left Dongfang Mansion. This time, he still brought a few followers of the Dongfang family to the Lu Mansion together. Otherwise, if he was alone, he would appear to be weaker. When they arrived at the gate of Lu Mansion in the north of the city, the two guards of the Lu family trembled all over when they saw Lu Chuan's figure. The rest of the passers-by were unable to walk when they saw this. Lu Chuan's personal visit to the Lu Mansion was definitely a big event for them to watch. For a while, many people gathered around immediately. Lu Chuan walked towards the guard at the door and said, open the door, I'll go in to find someone. The guard didn't know what to say for a while and swallowed nervously. He wanted to stop Lu Chuan, but he was afraid that his life would be in danger. Lu Chuan's aura was so strong that neither of them dared to say too much. Then, one of them opened the door and said respectfully, "Please come in." Lu Chuan walked in calmly. The other passers-by looked at each other, all at a loss, wondering why Lu Chuan was visiting the Lu mansion this time. After arriving at the Lu family compound, Lu Chuan glanced around. It was a typical Su family garden, with a simple, elegant and luxurious atmosphere. Lu Chuan walked along the stone road towards the house in front, and happened to see two little boys playing in the yard. The two boys chased back and forth, and when they saw Lu Chuan's figure, they both stopped. After the two recognized Lu Chuan, they all turned around and fled as if they had seen a ghost, accompanied by panic shouting, "It's Lu Chuan! It's Lu Chuan!" The loud shouting soon attracted everyone in the Lu mansion to gather around. In a short while, hundreds of people gathered and surrounded Lu Chuan. "Lu Chuan, it's you. What right do you have to be here? Lu Wu's first 7 days haven't passed yet. What are you doing here? You are not welcome here. How dare you come to our Lu mansion with such a thick face? Don't you know that we are already incompatible?" Lu Chuan turned around and glared at the man. The old man who said this was frightened by Lu Chuan and dared not say anything. "Since we are incompatible, is it right for me to kill you?" As soon as these words came out, everyone retreated one after another, looking at Lu Chuan with horror, all panicked. At this time, Lu Wansheng walked out quickly. He was wearing a white robe and a white scarf on his head. After he walked out, he stood in front of Lu Chuan and looked at Lu Chuan. "You, what are you doing in our Lu mansion?" he asked nervously. He knew how strong Lu Chuan was now, and they were definitely not his opponent. But this did not affect the fact that they were hostile enemies. "I suggest you speak in a nicer manner, otherwise, I will really kill you all. Don't think I can't do it. I can destroy the Qin mansion, let alone you. Lu Wansheng, you are only a 5th rank martial emperor. Is this the attitude you should have when you see me? In Kunlun domain, the strong are respected. This is an ironclad truth." Lu Wansheng couldn't help but lower his head slightly, and his attitude became much more humble. "Let's be honest. What exactly do you want to do with me?" The rest of the people looked at Lu Chuan nervously, fearing that Lu Chuan was here to settle the score. Lu Chuan looked at Lu Wansheng and asked, "Did your Lu family sponsor a group of bandits outside the city?" Lu Wansheng rolled his eyes and shook his head and said, "I have never heard of what you said. What bandits? What bandits? I have no idea. Nonsense. How dare you say you don't know? Mr. Lu, you must have believed the bandits' nonsense. They can say anything. I guess they are just using the name of our Lu family to boost their courage. Don't take it seriously." Lu Chuan narrowed his eyes and walked towards Lu Wansheng. Lu Wansheng was suppressed by Lu Chuan's momentum and began to retreat following Lu Chuan's footsteps. I'm telling the truth. We really don't know any bandits." Lu Chuan snorted coldly. "How about this? If I find evidence that you're colluding with bandits, I'll destroy your Lu mansion. How about that?" Lu Wansheng swallowed nervously. "Lu Chuan, you really misunderstood. There's no such thing at all. The bandits claim to have a relationship with us, but that's just their wishful thinking. No matter how bad our Lu family is, we won't collude with bandits." Chapter 724 Leaving Wangxing City. Lu Wansheng's strong defense made them distance themselves from the bandits. Lu Chuan continued to ask, "Can you guarantee that what you said is true?" Lu Wansheng nodded quickly and smiled helplessly. "Bandits are a group of people without bottom line. They can do anything. Borrowing the reputation of our Lu mansion to do bad things is nothing to them." Lu Chuan sneered and continued to ask, "Do these bandits really have such courage to borrow the name of your Lu mansion to rob? I don't think they should have this courage. If you don't give them this opportunity, they will never dare to do it." Lu Wansheng's face suddenly condensed, and he hurriedly explained, "Lu Chuan, you think too much. The bandits are entrenched in the mountains and occupy the mountains as kings. The Lu family will not take action against them unless they have no choice. This will only waste our energy." Lu Chuan nodded slightly. "When I came to Wangxing City, I heard the driver say that your Lu mansion once promised to wipe out the bandits, but there was no follow-up to this matter. Is this true?" Lu Wansheng smiled awkwardly. "Who spread these rumors?" There is no such thing. Those people outside are eager for us to quickly kill the bandits, but you also know that our Lu mansion is facing a difficult situation now. How can we send people out casually? Lu Chuan nodded slightly. I understand. That's good. I will go to Cheyenne Mountain. If I encounter bandits on the way, I will kill them all. If I find out that they are related to your Lu family, I will naturally cause trouble for you when I return to Wanxing City. Lu Wansheng trembled all over. Lu Chuan said this without any doubt. After all, the Lu Mansion branch in Xianshu City had already perished in Lu Chuan's hands. He did not dare to doubt it at all. What's more, if they want to ask for support from the general government now, I'm afraid it will be hopeless. Now they are left to fend for themselves. Whether they can survive depends entirely on themselves. Then I'll leave first. I'm too lazy to settle the accounts of your Lu Mansion now. You guys should be careful, Lu Chuan said, and turned to walk towards the gate. Although Lu Wansheng refused to admit that he had any relationship with the bandits, Lu Chuan could see that the old guy was deceiving him. He definitely lied. The bandits were most likely funded by this group of people. After Lu Chuan walked out of the Lu Mansion, he rushed towards the Dongfang Mansion while thinking, if he went to Cheyenne Mountain alone, it would be extremely dangerous. But since he was going there to hone his strength, this little difficulty was nothing. As soon as Lu Chuan left, Lu Wansheng's face turned ugly. He swallowed his saliva and glanced around with a gloomy look. Some people came up and asked hurriedly, Master, what should we do next? This guy obviously knows the relationship between us and the bandits. I'm afraid it's not easy to hide it. Master, I think this is a great opportunity. Since this kid is going to Cheyenne Mountain, we can use this opportunity to set an ambush. It might work wonders. Lu Wansheng rubbed his forehead and said with an embarrassed look, this guy named Lu Chuan is very powerful. Even Lu Wu is not his opponent. If we rely on those bandits, we can dream about it. Master, you must know that in that rugged terrain, the bandits naturally have an advantage. They are also proficient in setting ambushes. If we set a few more traps, we might fall into the trap. That's right. Those bandits are the best at ambushing people. Give them a chance to set a trap. Maybe it will really work wonders. Lu Wansheng nodded slightly. This is also a solution. In this case, let's inform the bandits and let them prepare. If they really find an opportunity, they will be great contributors to our Lu Mansion. It is not impossible to let them join our Lu family. Hearing this, the other people in the Lu Mansion quickly retreated and began to make preparations. At the same time, Lu Chuan returned to Dongfang Mansion. Lu Chuan found Dongfang Cheng, and the two drank tea and chatted in the tea room. Mr. Lu, what are your plans next? I just went to the Lu Mansion and asked about the relationship between the Lu family and the bandits outside the city. That Lu Wansheng was stubborn and refused to admit that he had any relationship with the bandits. Since he refused to admit it, I won't waste my time with him. I'm going to Cheyenne Mountain next. Dongfang Cheng looked at Lu Chuan curiously. What are you going to do there? There are things I need there, so I'll prepare for the future. Dongfang Cheng nodded slightly. No problem. I can bring some people to accompany you. Okay, let's go now. You gather the people. Dongfang Cheng frowned slightly. Is it so urgent? Anyway, there's nothing else to do. Isn't it better to do things more quickly? Dongfang Cheng nodded repeatedly. No problem. Let's go now. Soon, Dongfang Cheng gathered a team of 20 people in the mansion. Among the 20 people, half were elite warriors above the Martial King realm. Taking a team there would solve many inconveniences. Everyone got on a few carriages and headed out of the city. There were 4 carriages in total. After driving out of the city, they headed all the way to Cheyenne Mountain. From a distance, Lu Chuan could see that a dark cloud covered the Cheyenne Mountain range. If it was here, it would be fine, with some light, but if it was in Cheyenne Mountain, it would be dark and cloudy. Although the place was full of gloom, there were still many people going there. There were enough prey to hunt there, and there were also quite a few dead trees to chop. These 2 points were great temptations for the civilians nearby, so the bandits also entrenched in this dark environment, not only to hide their traces, but also to stop and rob some passers-by from time to time. The carriage rushed towards Cheyenne Mountain. At 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the carriage arrived at the foot of the mountain. Lu Chuan and others got off the carriage one after another. After Dong Fangcheng got off the carriage, he looked up at the mountain range, which looked desolate and dilapidated. There were a few lush groves around, but they could not cover the dilapidated mountain range. This place is very evil. Everyone knows that people can chop wood and hunt here, but no one dares to go deep into the mountains. Dong Fangcheng walked towards Lu Chuan. I heard that there is a hinterland in this mountain, which is a mass grave. I don't know how many years ago, when an entire army crossed there, they were ambushed and killed by the enemy. Every soldier had a few lives under their command. They were all evil. After their death, that area became an area with extremely strong yin energy. Ordinary people dare not go deep into it, for fear that they will not be able to get out. Lu Chuan looked at Dong Fangcheng and asked, so that's the case. The place I want to go is there. Dong Fangcheng looked at Lu Chuan and asked in panic, are you crazy? That's not a place for people to go. Chapter 725 Entering Cheyenne Mountain. Dong Fangcheng looked at Lu Chuan in surprise. That mass grave is not a good place. I heard that it is haunted. Those are not ghosts, but evil things. Is there a big difference? Anyway, they are all things that harm people. I advise you not to go. Dong Fangcheng persuaded. Lu Chuan smiled helplessly. I traveled so far, just to go to that mass grave. You told me not to go. Then what is the point of coming here? Aren't you going to wipe out the bandits? Why should I bother with them? It's just that, if I want to go deep into Cheyenne Mountain, I will inevitably run into them. So, I went to the Lu mansion to say hello, but I didn't expect that those bastards all pretended to be grandsons, and didn't admit it. Lu Chuan shrugged helplessly. Are you determined to go in? Forget it. Dong Fangcheng persuaded again. If I don't go in, then my trip would have been in vain. Lu Chuan looked at Dong Fangcheng and asked, are you scared? Dong Fangcheng hurriedly shook his head. How is that possible? I'm not scared. It's mainly for safety reasons. We will be helpless if we encounter evil creatures. There is no way we can do anything. If we follow them in, I'm afraid we won't be able to protect ourselves. Lu Chuan patted Dong Fangcheng on the shoulder and said, in that case, you guys stay here. I'll go in alone. I came here with only one purpose, and that is to kill evil creatures. That is, evil spirits. These evil spirits are a disaster to the world, and I've done a good thing by getting rid of them all. What's more, I can improve my own strength by killing evil spirits. Dong Fangcheng immediately looked at Lu Chuan curiously. How do you plan to deal with the evil spirits? Use the magical flames in your body? Lu Chuan shook his head slightly. Of course not, but this sword. Lu Chuan drew out the soul-breaking sword behind him. Dong Fangcheng quickly looked at the sword in Lu Chuan's hand. Seeing the obscure and mysterious runes on the sword, he couldn't help but exclaimed, this sword is very unusual. This is the soul-breaking sword, which can attack the enemy's soul, and is even more effective against evil spirits. Not only that, the sword can also absorb soul fragments, and store them for future battles. Lu Chuan put the soul-breaking sword back into the scabbard. Since it is inconvenient for you to go in, I'll go into the mountain alone. If you are alone, will there be any accidents? Lu Chuan smiled. Lu Wu can't create an accident. Are you still afraid of those bandits? That's true, but it's a pity that we can't go in with you. We have no means against evil spirits. If we encounter them, we will suffer. It's a pity. Lu Chuan waved his hand and said disapprovingly, it's okay, you just stay here and take care of yourself. I'll be back soon. After that, Lu Chuan began to go deep into the mountains along the mountain road. After entering Cheyenne Mountain, the light around was much dimmer, and a feeling of autumn chill came over, which made Lu Chuan alert. Not long after walking along the mountain road, they saw an old man carrying freshly chopped firewood down the mountain. Grandpa, I want to ask you something. The old man stopped and looked at Lu Chuan. Seeing that Lu Chuan was well-mannered and polite, he knew that he was not a bad person. Young man, what do you want to ask? I want to know. The mass grave in Cheyenne Mountain is to go forward in this direction, right? Lu Chuan pointed forward. The old man nodded repeatedly. That's right. Just go forward in this direction. But I have to remind you carefully, don't go too deep. Be careful of encountering bandits. Last year, my granddaughter accidentally ran up the mountain to play, unfortunately ran into those beasts, and was directly kidnapped. As he said, he sighed. Anyway, take care of yourself. If you run into those beasts, turn around and run. Luchuan smiled helplessly. If I don't go deep, how can I get to the mass grave? The old man looked at Luchuan with a strange look on his face, then shook his head helplessly, and continued to go down the mountain. He seemed to think that Luchuan was talking nonsense. How could a normal person go to that mass grave? Luchuan continued to move forward, but after hearing the old man's reminder, he became much more cautious when walking on the mountain road. After walking a little further on the mountain road, Luchuan suddenly heard a wailing sound. Ouch. Ouch. Luchuan followed the sound and saw a man in grey cloth sitting on the ground in the forest, with a thick tree trunk hitting his leg. Is there anyone? Help. He continued to wail. Luchuan walked over and asked, what happened? The man looked up at Luchuan, as if he saw a life-saving straw, and wanted to grab it immediately. Little brother, help me, carry this wood away. I came up the mountain to cut trees, and I was accidentally hit by a tree trunk. My leg was broken, and I can't walk. If you don't save me, I'll be dead, he said in panic, seeming to be very scared. Luchuan frowned slightly, feeling strange in his heart. How stupid this man was, to be hit by a tree while cutting trees. Although he felt strange, Luchuan still walked up. If he went deep into Cheyenne Mountain, he would meet bandits sooner or later. Since he would have to fight with them sooner or later, it would not be a bad thing if he could meet them earlier. Now that the trouble has been solved early, the road ahead will be easier. Luchuan walked forward, lifted the wood easily, and put it aside. Okay, can you stand up now? The man stood up quickly, grabbed Luchuan's wrist with both hands, and thanked him excitedly. Thank you so much. Thank you for your help. You are such a kind person, he said excitedly. Stand still first. I'll take out all the silver in the package. I'll give it all to you. As he said that, he turned around and walked away. Don't move. I'll get the money right away. I must repay you for saving my life. TSK Luchuan suddenly frowned, and he heard the sound of the rope being cut. Swish! Exclamation mark. The next moment, he felt a shock under his feet, and a large wire net wrapped around Luchuan from bottom to top. At this moment, Luchuan gritted his teeth and quickly activated his skill Extreme Shadow Flash, trying to escape the trap. However, the next moment, the wire net wrapped Luchuan up, and the whole person was hung on the tree trunk. The woodcutter who was just hit looked back at Luchuan and laughed wantonly. Ha 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 ha. You've been fooled. You fell into our hands today, and you're in big trouble. Brothers, all come out, the prey has been caught, and then we can go to Lu Mansion to report. Swish. In an instant, 30 or 40 people came out from the surroundings, making the empty forest crowded. Luchuan was bound in the big net. He looked at the woodcutter below and sneered. You may think I have no vigilance. Nonsense, you have no vigilance at all. Do you still need me to think so? In terms of playing with your brain, you are much worse than us. Luchuan continued to smile and said, the real strong do not need to be vigilant about the behavior of the weak. It's like as a human, would you be vigilant about the trap set for you by an ant? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.